Good evening. I call to order the meeting of the Mayor and the Council, Borough of River Edge, agenda July 11, 2022, 7 p.m., regular meeting. I ask everyone in a moment to stand for a silent reflection for all of those individuals in our world who are in the midst of struggling for freedom, especially in the Ukraine, and for all those our soldiers, wherever they might be, protecting our country and our interests throughout the world. I'm going to call on our clerk, Ann Dodd, to lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Statement of compliance with the Open Public Meeting Act. This meeting complies with the Open Public Meeting Act by notification on January 7th of this location, date, and time to the Town News and the Record, and by posting the same on the Municipal Bulletin Board and the Borough website, and filing notice of the same with the municipal clerk. Roll call.
Councilwoman Bastide? Here. Councilman Canigo?
Here.
Council President Kaufman?
Here.
Councilwoman Kinsella?
Here.
Councilwoman Malalari?
Here.
Councilwoman Montesano Cohen?
Here.
Mayor Papaleo?
Here. So item number 5, approval of the minutes. May I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of the Mayor and Council regular meeting and closed session meeting of June 27, 2022?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain?
Mr. Mayor, I need to abstain. I wasn't here due to a family illness.
Absolutely. Okay, now for discussion. Memorial Park revitalization, and then item 7, public comments on any item on the agenda. I'd like to address briefly how we're going to proceed. So first of all, we have a large number of individuals here. We are allotting 1 hour for public comments, but that may be extended at the council's discretion. Each person will be given 2 minutes. The borough attorney will keep those 2 minutes. At the end of the 2 minutes, we ask for you to step away, whether you're finished or not, so that you're not going to take time away from the next speaker. Each person will speak after all the presentations and the council discussion. That's why it's item number 6 and item number 7, and item number 6 is just for discussion. We ask everyone to be cordial and polite and reasonable, and as long as you are, you will have your full 2 minutes. If for any reason it becomes cantankerous, I will ask you to modify your behavior. If that doesn't happen, we will then ask you to leave. But I don't think that's going to happen. I've had really great conversations with all of the stakeholders. Yeah, and everyone's being cordial and polite. But it is important that I let you know. Only after everyone has spoken will the council then answer any questions that may have been posed. So this for comments and questions. This is upon the advice of council as the most efficient way to allow the most people to speak, so that it doesn't become one person and 30 minutes and the next person with 2 minutes and the next person with 2 and then the following fourth person with 30, and then before you know it, we're out of time. So there is a question I do need to ask. We often have people overflow into the hallway. We can proceed as is, or we can break this into 2 cohorts, where we'd have 30 minutes with this cohort, and then we'd ask them to leave and allow the hallway people 30 minutes, bring them in, and they would step out. So in general, could I have a census from the people in the hallway only? Do you wish for us to go to 2 cohorts where we'd ask you to step outside, and in 30 minutes we'd invite you into the seats that the current people would vacate, or would you like to remain where you are?
They can't.
No worries.
He's coming out.
Yes, right?
So
Oh, this is only for the recording, not gonna be too loud. Okay.
There's 800 should come over. In my retirement speech, and they say, you know, when was your greatest achievement? I can say it was the time she served.
Well, they're-
Part of the 5 miles
We did that earlier.
Oh, you, oh wow.
We had to be part of the frustration and rage.
I'm not sure.
540 pounds.
I know who they are.
How many linear feet of path? I was going to say, there's got to be almost a mile of path. I think it's 4,200.
Yes, that's right. 4,200 times 9, yeah, that was the 4,200 roughly, yeah, 4,000 feet of path. An average of, I did it like an 8, 12, so 80 average.
Two, tier 2.
So you see in the middle, the actual get wider. On this side, it gets 8, and this gets 10, and it gets 12. So.
Parking spaces was cul-de-sacs.
Is there any way we can make the speaker system louder?
We have one major complex.
100% this first, the location, and then you just go to the region.
It should be a master volume.
Yeah, but I want you to summarize and not everybody. Test it for summary, that's all, for everybody that's not here the first time.
So a request was made to turn up the master volume control, and we're attempting to, do that for them. So I'm going to continue to speak. If you can turn the master volume up, testing 1, 2, 3, a little bit more, testing. Can you guys, a little bit more? Testing 1, 2, 3.
That's maximum.
That's maximum. All right, so we'll proceed from this point on.
There's still room inside the
What?
there's still room inside the chambers. People can step in.
Are there seats available?
Hey, room.
They're standing anyway.
If you guys want to do standing room and comment a little bit, you're welcome to do that.
Take those chairs.
Take the chairs if you want.
All right, on the council, can everybody raise their mic except for mine? So raise your mic. Okay, that should help with reverberation. Okay.
We're discussing first.
Okay. So I'm going to give a little background to frame what's going to happen. What we're going to do is Mr. Costa, just raise your hand. Mr. Costa is a borough engineer, and he has, we just introduced your two associates.
Jason, to my right, is from my office. He's a PE in my office. Greg, who also lives in River Edge, is a engineer in training in my office. And tonight, Mr. Mayor, here I am in front of the council, and I'd just like to say one thing. The last time I saw this many people behind me was 34 and a half years ago when I said I do.
Okay. So the process we're going to follow is this. In a moment, Mr. Costa is going to present the original idea that was presented to the council on June 27th, correct?
Yes.
Then there was a second program that was that I asked Mr. Costa to do, and we're going to talk about why that occurred in a minute. And then we're going to pause. I know there is a member of council who has a third idea. We're going to let that member of council move that, and then Mr. Costa will present that. When that is complete, the council will then discuss, but the council will not vote. I want to assure you, the council will not vote until after we have an hour of public comments. So, and what we're going to do with the public comments is we're going to do a for and against. So if you're against the overall program, we're going to ask for pros and cons, and we're going to try to go back and forth, okay, so that everyone gets an equal amount of time. Let me begin with explaining why this is happening now and what would be voted on after all the public comment is done. We are not voting on to build something, to go into debt, to take any action other than to apply for a grant. That is what this vote is about tonight. Simply, do we apply for a grant or not, and what do we want to apply for as a grant? This drawing and all the other drawings, this drawing is different from this drawing, and there'll be a third, I think there's a third drawing, there is a third drawing, will represent a concept drawing. As you can see, this is not an architectural drawing, okay? There's no seal on it. There is no in-depth measurements. We don't see where the drainage would go. We don't see anything. It's just a proof of concept for the grant process. And that's all it is. Now, what if something gets approved tonight? Then it would go to the preliminary meeting of the County Open Space Board, which is occurring on July 19th, which is why this has to happen today. Okay? So if the council approves a grant application, it would go there, we'd enter into the queue, and we would then be available for the county to consider a grant. This would be a 50% grant. Then, I think it's October, right? When they would meet for their official meeting?
Anywhere between October and December.
Okay, so somewhere around October, November, December, the official meeting would occur, and at that point, they would decide whether or not there would be a grant given to River Edge and how much. And if they don't, then nothing's going to happen. If they do, then all the stakeholders would come in, and they would be, all right, we now need to move towards architectural plans. Does this work? Does that work? We'd have to bring in the police department. We'd have to bring in the fire department. We'd have to bring in the Shade Tree Commission, the Rec Commission, Regal, and other groups, not limiting it to those, but those would be the big ones. We have to bring in the DPW and say, listen, what do we need to do to turn this, how do we need to tweak this? How do we need to process this? And then upon that, we would then go to, we'd receive a certification that we have the grant, and then we'd come to the budget meeting, and that would be February about. And then we would see whether we wanted to put the matching amount into capital, and that would be amortized over 30 years for 4,300 households. And then, if that was approved, then we would authorize the final design, and Mr. Costa would do that, and then it would go out to bid. And if the bid came back more than we had put aside, then the project wouldn't occur unless we could find funding somewhere else, or it would have to wait a year and then it would be done. So the earliest anything would be done would be, Mr. Costa, June of next year?
Yes.
June of next year. So to again frame it, all we're doing is considering putting in for a grant. Now, there's a couple other pieces. Could we, after we receive the grant, relocate the grant? We could. There would be a process for that. We'd have to go back to the county, ask them, say, we want to change it this way or that way. If we were significantly changing it in a location, we might have to go back to the county. And if we were going to move it to another location, we again would have to go back to the county. So once the grant has been given, awarded rather, then there would be, we would be moving forward unless there was a decision of the council that perhaps we should ask for a modification or a change. Mr. Costa, am I correct in everything?
1,000%.
Okay, so now we currently have several funding pieces that are already in place. We have $527,000, correct?
Yes.
Which was moved to KGB for a softball field there. But as you all know, in September, the storms came and KGB got flooded, and then the JIF required us to do some samplings, and that field closed for about 4 months, 3 to 4 months, correct?
2 to 3.
2 to 3 months while we were testing, and so no programming was allowed there. And let's be honest, if the current weather pattern continues, which is more probable than less probable, we have a doubtful situation whether to do any major improvements in KGB because it's just not a viable site. In fact, it's my personal opinion, I'm not an engineer, that if the weather pattern continues the way it is and we have to constantly shut it down when it gets flooded for testing, that we might have to abandon KGB in 10 to 15 years. But the weather pattern could change. But if it continues, more than likely something like that would have to be considered. So at that point, and our DPW superintendent also said that he no longer thought the softball field at KBG, so I'll say it right this time, is viable. So then we looked, the council began to look at Memorial Park. Now, did we look at other locations? We did. We looked for over 2 years, we looked at doing something at Roosevelt. But we could not get the BOE at that time to cooperate with some of the asks that Regal needed and some of the things that we needed. And Mr. Costa, we had many meetings on that.
We did, Mayor, absolutely.
And we tried to be very flexible with them, but it was very limited what they were going to allow us to do, when they were going to allow us to do it. Considering the BOE has changed, 2 people have changed, and the superintendent has changed, I know that some of you might suggest that we might want to go back to them. But the question before us right now is, do we go out for a grant or not? Do we leave the money on the table, or do we get the money on the table? So that is what this council is trying to do. It's trying to offset any tax burdens to keep and improve the parks that we currently have, given the programs we currently do. Now, we have a few people who I'm going to call up first. So first I'm going to call up the president of Regal when we get to that point. Then I'm going to, is there anyone from the Rec Commission who wishes to speak for the Rec Commission? I know there are several. So then I would call up yourself or all 3 of you, but you'd only get 2 minutes, even though you're all 3. Okay? Second, and then we would call up Renee, and Renee has been organizing some of those who are opposed to the current plan. And then we would try to rotate through them so that it remains fair. At the end of an hour, after we open, we will then consider whether we need to give more time to it. If we did, we'd give only an extra half hour. So, and then we would close to the public. Any questions that we heard from the public that needs to be answered, we would do that. And then the council would vote on what it wishes to do, if anything. Okay? So that's the process. So what I'm going to ask Mr. Costa to do is to introduce to you the original plan that was presented on 27th briefly, and just explain quickly its overall cost. We're not going to get into specific costs, and what was some of the thinking. Then we're going to go to the second plan, its overall cost and some of the thinking. And then we're going to, I know that one of our council people want to make a proposal for a new plan. Okay. Mr. Costa.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr.
good
Costa,
evening.
you need to say your full name and your business, your relationship to...
No problem. Good evening, Mayor, council, members of the public. Good evening this evening. For the record, my name is Robert Louis Costa, C-O-S-T-A. Business address 325 South River Street in Hackensack, New Jersey. And again, to my right, Jason Flores from my office, who's a PE. To my left, Greg O'Donnell, who's a engineer in training.
Mr. Costa, can I interrupt you for a second? Would, for the public's benefit, and because we're also live on Verizon and Cablevision, would you explain what a PE is?
Professional engineer. So this young man had to do an apprenticeship under me, which I don't know was good or bad, but here he is this evening. So this is a baptism by fire tonight.
Okay.
But with that, he did the apprenticeship, he passed his test, he has master's degrees, he's probably smarter than me. To my left, Greg, young engineer, graduate engineer, River Edge resident, also has been with me for many years, started as an intern. Two very talented individuals, unlike myself.
So we accept all the credentials, including yours.
Thank
you may
Mr.
proceed.
Mayor. All right, with that, just to come back to, I guess, what the purpose of a couple of weeks ago meeting was. As you stated earlier, Mayor, the idea is to get the girls their fields explored down in Kenneth George Park, obviously with the Board of Education at Roosevelt. So this has been going on not for weeks, but for years, in order to get the girls an equivalent facility, I guess, so to speak, as the boys' facilities. With that, the flooding that we've had down off the Hackensack River with rather, I call them United Water still, now it's Suez, now it's some other company, Viola, I don't even know how to pronounce it anymore, you have to keep up with it. But with that and the release of the water from the reservoir and what destruction takes place in New Milford and also with our facilities in River Edge, plus dealing with the DEP and the wetlands and the waterfront development, so on and so forth, the idea was to find alternate locations to put in at least one field for the girls. With that, on June...
Costa, you got to speak up.
With that, on June 27th, we came before the council to discuss the plan that's up on the board tonight.
That we have no way of altering, but it is, it was visible on the YouTube, and I believe it's also gone around on several public media. Do we have a copy of that plan, Mr. Costa?
Would you like us to read the chairs?
We can't move 40 people there, so.
Let's see what we got. Do we have?
No, we don't have a copy of that plan.
We do have a, yeah, we do have a copy.
The big one.
We have a copy. If you want to wait 1 second, Mayor.
Wait.
I believe there's at least a board-mounted copy of this that we could put out.
Isn't that the one that was sitting right next to your desk? We were looking at it?
Okay.
As you walk into your office on the right.
If you have Cablevision or Verizon as your cable company, you have the TV app on your phone, you could turn to that app, and that camera right now is showing that piece. But here we have it here. Why don't you put it up here? Yeah. I'm going to go hold it. All right. All right, everybody, go ahead, Mr. Costa.
Okay. So again, so basically, that was the program, and that's the driving force behind the concept that came before the council on the 27th.
Mr. Costa, just a little bit louder.
No problem. So with the DPW and my office, what's to your left and straight ahead is a concept plan to create a softball field for the girls. With this plan, it would call for the removal of the two cul-de-sacs that are currently in the park. It would call for the construction of a small parking lot, roughly 23 parking spaces. It would call for the relocation of the hockey rink and the basketball courts. It would then add an addition, possibly, to the current snack stand that's adjacent to the southern Little League field, and then create a new playground to the southwest where it currently is, and then the removal of the current building there. This way, if you're having an event in the park, you can actually see the young children that are playing in the playground area. That was the concept behind this, and then obviously there would be removal of trees and then the replanting and revegetation in the park. It also called for the paving or repaving of all of the pathways and the relocation of some of the pathways in order to make this happen. And roughly, Mayor, and very quickly, we came up with a cost in order to put in for the grant money, roughly $3.5 million in total. We broke it into 3 phases, and then again, it would be up to the council whether or not they would want to do it in 1 phase or over 3 phases. And again, if the council decides to go forward with this plan, my recommendation would be to do everything in 1 phase. This way, there's the least amount of damage to whatever you build over time, do it quickly, and it cause the least amount of disruption to the public. And that was my recommendation to the council on the 27th. Basically, that is it.
Okay. So at that point, the council asked our CFO to do an in-house assessment, which the council has received, but it is a consultatory document, and therefore it is privileged, so it will not be released to the public for a lot of reasons. One of them, it affects bidding if you put all your numbers on the table. And so that would be, but the council, it became apparent after the meeting that the council was not interested in spending that amount of money and moving the basketball court and the hockey field. And so I called you, Mr. Costa, and I said that it was always the intention of the council, though maybe you did not know that and Mr. Melito did not understand that we just do a baseball, softball field with the minimum amount of change. So then you came up with the second plan.
Correct.
Now, we have extra copies of the second plan around. If anybody needs it, we can give you a couple of them. I have 3 on my desk. 4. So if you cannot see, please only take them if you're in a position where you cannot see, and please share them, okay? So I'm going to go to the hall. If you can hand this in the hallway so that they're not excluded. It's going to happen. Unless it gets unbearable. Okay. Yeah, well, he has his hand on the mic. Okay. Everybody, do me a favor. Pull your mics. You know how to do that? Push the button behind. Pull your mic. Pull your mics. Push the button behind. And then lift. Which button?
Oh, gotcha.
Push the button behind. Okay, what we've done is, you might notice what we're doing is we're just pulling the mics right now so we don't get too much feedback, and that we're accommodating everyone as best as possible. Okay.
Okay.
So, Mr. Costa, would you please, as loudly as possible, without feedback, please explain briefly the second project and its estimated cost?
Okay. Concept number 2, Mayor, as we discussed, you called my office last week to discuss, let's try to save, or let's save the hockey rink, the basketball. Do not show an addition to the current snack stand. Put in.
I need to ask everyone to take the conversations outside because it's unfair to the people who are currently in the hallway. They will not be able to hear. Shh. Go ahead, Mr. Costa.
Okay, with that, again, this concept number 2, we'll call it just for clarity. Everything stays as is to the north side of the park. So the Little League fields stay intact, the hockey rink stays intact, the basketball court stays intact, the current snack stand stays intact, no disturbance, no destruction, no nothing. The cul-de-sac to the east would be removed under this scenario. The cul-de-sac to the west, we're showing it to remain, but ultimately the council could decide whether or not you want to take that cul-de-sac out or not. If we take it out, then we would create more green area and then have the pathway go straight through it, unlike it is today. If it stays intact, the current path goes to it, you come to a drop curb, you walk across the cul-de-sac and into the southern side. In between, we would put in a softball field, a proposed field for the girls. We'd have to relocate some of the paths around it. We would update the current playground that exists. The existing buildings that there stay and remain, and basically that is the entire project. With that, you're looking at roughly 1.5 million is what we budgeted for this in order to put in for the grant.
Okay, now, so that was our second plan.
Correct.
Okay, at this point, I'd like to recognize Councilwoman Bastide, if you can put your mic back in.
That work?
Yes. And if you can, as loudly and clearly as possible, state your for lack of a better word, motion.
Sure. Mr. Costa, do you have an image of the third proposal that you prepared? Is that it? Yes. I'm sorry. I can't. Okay.
We do, Councilwoman.
Okay, at this point, the clerk has some copies. If you could release them to the people who cannot see.
So just a little bit of a background so the public understands, because I needed clarity on this as well. So the county's already submitted their 2022 open space grant application to the county. We did so in March, I believe, or May 6th, I'm sorry, it was May. For
End of April.
Improvements to Brookside Park, which would include renovation of the existing playground spaces at Brookside Park. So actually what we are being asked to do now is ask the county to table that proposal and replace it with a proposal for Memorial Park. So the council also has to consider whether or not we want to abandon the Brookside project or not. So I just want to put that on the table as well. So what you have before you here is I am going to propose that we move forward with the Memorial Park changes or improvements that would include solely an update of the playground, which we're told the playground is at its end of its useful life as it is, so that needs to be replaced in both Playground 1 and Playground 2. The drainage improvements to improve the flooding that we have there to make the space more usable more consistently, and improvements and redoing of some of the walkways. That would be Proposal 3. We would stay with the open space grant for 2022 and continue to proceed with the Brookside improvements, because that came to us from the Recreation Department. That was their recommendation. And then for 2023, we work in earnest with the Board of Education, with all of the stakeholders. My feeling is the stakeholders need to be part of the discussion prior to the grant application in the concept phase. That 2023 truly gets the girls softball program what they need and they deserve, with 2 fields at Roosevelt. If it means bathroom improvements, that's what that means. It's not going to be an easy lift. That means the Board of Education must come to the table and they must be honest and earnest and be willing to work with us and enter into an interlocal agreement. I know some people in the public have already spoken with them. I know the mayor had a meeting with the superintendent this afternoon. From what I'm hearing, that's moving in the correct direction. So that is the third proposal I'd ask the council to consider.
So, Mr. Costa, I want to give you some time to talk about the plan that Councilwoman Bastide has summarized and what you think the approximate cost would be, without going to any specifics.
Again, without going to specifics, let's call it concept number 3. This would be an upgrade, obviously, to the 2 playground areas for the children. Everything else remains intact. Cul-de-sacs remain. Hockey rink remains, basketball remains, Little League remains, everything that's there remains. The only improvements that would take place would be the playground and then the pathways that circumnavigate the entire park, along with some drainage improvements. Roughly, ballpark, somewhere around $800,000 to $900,000.
Okay, before the council speaks to all this, I just want to talk a little bit about the financing, okay? And Ms. Apertola, if I make any mistakes, I want you to chime in or nudge me or slap me on the back of the head, like my father used to do. So, for the first project, we would have been going at, we have $527,000 currently that is at KBG that we were thinking about moving up. So, and then we have about $250,000, which is currently in the budget, capital budget, I believe, to finish the improvements on the hockey field and the drainage by the hockey field, and I think some of the batting cages, correct? So that would have reduced the impact of the three, I'm just going in order. I'm not showing preference, okay, everybody? So the 3.4 would be reduced by approximately 800,000, 3.3?
3.4 is, I think, the real
So
number.
about, let's say 3.3, just to keep it even numbers.
Let's go even, 3.5.
So, and then you take away 8, about 8,000. So that brings us down to 2.5. And then we'd go out for a grant and we would be looking for 1.25, which would be half. And then, of course, the other 1.25 would be the obligation of the Borough of River Edge. But does it ever equal that? No, because we have to overestimate. And I think we're overestimating by 40% with this, or 20%?
20%.
But it's 20 and 20, isn't it? 20% on contingency and 20% on engineering? Doesn't that make 40? No? Explain that to me.
No, 20% contingency, just in
okay.
case there's any unknowns. But, and again, Mayor, what we discussed at the 27th, and I'm sure there are people in this room that have felt this already, with the supply chain, with COVID,
Yeah.
with everything, there are a lot of unknowns, obviously, to do projects and then to space them out. So you have a 20% contingency just in case.
And just for the public's understanding the way government works, it's very different from the way you would put an addition onto your house or renovate your home. We have to have all the funding in place before we can go out to bid. So we have to have all the money. If we don't, we're not allowed to proceed, okay? So that would be the maximum amount for project number 1. Project number 2, the one I asked Mr. Costa to create, that comes in at 1.6, I believe. With it,
1.5.
1.5, and there's a contingency of 20% on that one too.
Correct.
So it's inflated by 20%. So it's 120% of what we actually believe it will cost. And we're also using in all of ours the higher numbers, so that for materials and for service and for labor, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so this would be the very maximum amount that it possibly could be, because we're required to do that by state statute. I believe it's a state statute.
Correct.
Okay, so now with plan number 2, that would be 1.6 million. We have, now in this plan, as you can see, we did not move anything with the hockey rink. So that $250,000 can no longer be a part, because it then becomes dedicated to what it was originally set for. So now the 1.6 would now be offset by 527,000, okay? So let's just round that to 500,000. So that drops it from 1.5 to 1 million. And then we go before the county and say we want another $500,000. Since they've given us $500,000 in the past, it's a likelihood that they would give it to us again. No guarantees for anything. Okay, they can absolutely say, no, we like the people of Paramus better. Isn't that always the case? So, a little levity, I hoped. Okay. So that would mean the burden to the people of River Edge would be, in February, at the budget, $500,000, and that $500,000 would be amortized over 30 years, over 4,300 households. So, not a lot of, it would have a negligible, if any, impact on the tax rate. So I want to deal with that. Now, project number 3, $870,000. Now the funding, as Councilwoman Bastide has explained, but I want to go into a little more detail, would happen this way. we take the 527,000 that's currently at KBG, and we bring that up to Memorial Park. The water mitigation is called water mitigation? Is that what we call it, water mitigation?
Drainage improvements?
Drainage. The drainage and the two playgrounds and some path work is essentially all that's what we're doing. So that would be 570 reduced by, 870, I think is what you said about, reduced by 527. So we would have a lag, we'd have a gap of 350.
You wouldn't get the whole 527. It would be a matching grant. So whatever, if you didn't
Oh, yeah,
get
so
over.
that would be two.
Right.
Just under 270.
Right.
270. So the 270 from the 870 would leave 600,000, and that would be the burden to the people of River Edge. And again, that would be over 30 years, over 4,300 residencies. So that's how it would be broken out. Okay. And of course, it would be let me not mix up it anymore. So those are the three plans. Now, in the third plan, what would happen is the original request in late April was for Brookside. So Brookside would continue to be the request. We would not substitute Plan 1 or substitute Plan 2. So Brookside would move forward, and this would be something that we would fund for next year during the budget season, January, February, March. Okay, and so those two things would get done, and then we would hopefully have a good relationship with the BOE. Now, I met with the superintendent, and she was very lovely to meet with. But essentially right now, it's pretty much the same deal that we left off with in the previous negotiations, where we would pay for the improvements to the fields that they have not done. It is their responsibility to maintain those fields. And to understand that, if you look at the fields at the junior high and the high school, you see how well kept they are. And then if you look at the fields at Roosevelt and Cherry Hill, you see that not a lot of work has been done with them. However, they let us play on those fields, so there is something there. They are open to the batting cages, which they were last time. They're open for us paying for the batting cages, for us paying for the irrigation, and they're open for us renovating their dugouts. They're open for us, but they are opposed to essentially, partially or fully still opposed to the three asks, I believe, of Regal, but Regal will speak to that on their own, which would be a permanent structure where they could use not just for storage, but also for a snack stand, and they're opposed to signage year round. The superintendent thought perhaps the board might be open to signage during the season. Those are the two revenue sources that Regal was looking for that would put them on par with the Little League. Now, the Little League doesn't use a snack stand as much, but Mr. Ken Krausheimer, who might speak, who's been advocating this for 17 years to both the BOE and the council, had said that there was a time when they were pulling in thousands of dollars a year when they were operating the food stand, which is also a storage facility. But the batting cage they're for. But last time they were restricting the size and the design of the batting cage greatly, but I think they're open to it. So it was a very good conversation, but what I have to explain to you before the council begins to debate is that nothing can be done at their fields without a interlocal agreement. So now I'm going to turn to our borough attorney. Mr. Sarlo, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So without a signed interlocal agreement, not from the superintendent, but from the BOE, nothing can be done. After we have an interlocal agreement, then we have to go to the county and ask them for special permission to use open space money at a BOE property. Is that correct?
Correct. we know they know they have approved that in the past.
Absolutely, I'm getting to that. Just as I said, they last time gave us 500,000. They have approved that in the past, and so there's a likelihood they'd approve in the future. But I want to make sure everybody knows the process, and I want to present it fairly so that all sides of this debate understand all the components and why it's not just something that we just can do or not do, okay? So then after that, after they give us permission to do that, then we would apply for the grant, and it would go through the exact same process I described currently. So somewhere in mid-July would be the preliminary, somewhere in October, November would be the official meeting, and then it would have to go to budget for whatever cost that was approved or not approved. So that would be the process. So I want to be fair to everyone. I don't want to lean in on any side, but I do want everyone to understand the process and currently where we stand, especially with the BOE. Right now, the BOE has not spoken to me, only the superintendent, and only they can approve it, and they must sign a contract. And until they do, any attempt to build at Roosevelt will not happen. But perhaps with support, if there might be. Even if the field stays at Memorial, we still want to help the BOE out with the fields because our girls and boys play on it, and there are definitely renovations, and maybe there's future open space that we could do with that. But again, all that is dependent on the BOE, making some concessions other than allowing us to spend your money on their property, which they have not really maintained too well, okay? Which is only fair. So we are now at the point where the council needs to, remember, we're not voting, we're not to indicate the way we vote, but we are to debate the issue, and during that debate, of course, we will indicate what we are leaning towards. That's absolutely true. But if we indicate the way we would vote, then we're kind of not respecting the public who has come here to try to influence the vote one way or another, and they should have that right. And I ask also that we remain professional and we remain polite, both as a council and then later as a public before the council, and a public that has 2 or maybe 3 sides in regards to this issue. Does that sound like fair ground rules? Mm-hmm. All right. So I'm going to, we've already recognized Councilwoman Bastide. I'm going to ask any member of council, and I'd like for us to keep it to Robert's rules. So I ask you to raise your hand, and then I will call on you, and I ask no one to speak over another. Does any member of council wish to speak to Plan 1, Plan 2, Plan 3, or there is also an option of just not applying for anything, which is not a very good option in my opinion. But I'm going to start, if no one raises their hands, I'm going to go to the council president. Council president, do you have any, you'd have to put your mic back in. You all have to put your mics back in at this point, and hopefully we won't have too much problems with reverberation. And if we do, we might have to go to pulling them again. But we're not. Okay. All right, council president, do you have, you want some help over there?
Sorry.
That's all right. I was a high school nerd. I was in the tech department. Yeah, I'll try. All right. Still have my nerd touch. Go ahead.
I think it definitely makes sense to focus on fixing the playgrounds at our parks, Brookside and Memorial Park, fixing the drainage at Memorial Park, and upgrading the equipment as is required and the paths as are required. And I'm definitely also in favor of improving the fields at Roosevelt if we can do so in the future, as they are larger and they already exist. So that's my thought.
Now, I absolutely recommend applause, but we cannot do the reverse. We cannot boo or cattle call or anything like that. Okay, so if you want to applaud, great. If you don't want to applaud, then we ask you not to. All right, is there any member of council who'd like to speak next? If not, I'll go in seniority. Councilwoman Kinsella.
Hi, thank you, Mayor. I'm in agreement with the improvements, but I do think that we need a field for the girls. And from the history of this, it doesn't seem like the Board of Ed with the Roosevelt Field have been very cooperative. So that's all I'll say.
All right. Okay. Is there a member of council who would like to offer an opinion or debate a question or ask for
I'll say
information?
something, Mr. Mayor.
Councilwoman Montesano Cohen.
I also agree with the improvement to the park. I feel that leaving the girls' fields to 2023 is going back to square one, not where we were supposed to go. Something that I know is being pushed for 17 years. It sure changes the girls, and it saddens me that that's where we ended up.
Okay, is any other member, Claudiana or Councilwoman Molinari or Councilman
Save me
Canigo?
for last. We want the booze last.
Okay.
All right.
I agree as well with the improvements that the park needs, the Brookside Park as well. I've been there once, and it needs a lot of work, especially when it rains. I'm not against the girls' field, but I was going to ask, I don't know if it's the right
Yeah, this is the
or
forum.
not, but can one of the fields that the Little League uses to be turned into the girls' field? Don't they
So, the short answer to that is yes. The long answer to that is there is a constituency who feels very strongly about that. And before we take away something from them, they should be given a proper hearing. So that could not be decided now. That is not something we could do now. Now, I do know from Mr. Krausheimer, and he can speak for himself, he has informed me that has been approached in the past, and it was strongly rejected by that constituent base. And remember, we're here to represent everybody. So if there is somebody not here, then we shouldn't be making decisions without allowing them input. So the answer is both yes, but not at this time.
That's all I have.
Okay. Councilman Canigo. And then, of course, the council is free to speak again. And once the council has exhausted what it wants to say and questions it wants to ask, we would then move to the public. And, of course, you can ask a question, Mr. Costa, if you need to. Go ahead.
So, I don't like any of the plans. Not one, not two, not three. But I think that we should be building a girls' field here in town. And I think it's a long time that we do so. I think it's ridiculous that we do not have a girls' field here in town. All I wanted to do was put in a proposal that said, let's build a girls' field here in town. We had our engineer, we had DPW, they chimed in and said, these are additional things that you might consider. And one big plan got presented, and everybody just lost their minds. Nobody funded anything. Nobody said, we are definitely going forward with this. We wanted to explore something that has been asked for in this town for more than 2 decades, more than 3 decades, more than 4 decades. At no point was this third plan something that was asked for in this town. There hasn't been clamoring for fixing the drainage in the boys' fields. We are now dedicating $250,000 to add pitching cages to the boys' fields. That's what we're going to vote on tonight. But no girls' field. And this new plan that you're all applauded, and I understand why you applauded, because anytime you're going to fix a park, it's going to look nicer. This new plan doesn't actually address anything that I was trying to address bringing it to the council in the first place. All right? That's what I'm going to say about this. I think we need to go back to the drawing board altogether. Okay, as far as the Board of Education is concerned, for 2 years we've been meeting with the Board of Education with the 4 members who are still there, okay, not the 2 members who left because of whatever frustrations they had, but the 4 members who are still there, and we made no headway. I don't know what Councilwoman Bastide means by earnest conversations, because myself, the mayor, council, other people on this council have had these earnest, long-standing conversations with the Board of Education, and we've been rebuffed at every turn. Sure, they'll let us put in a pitching cage as long as we build Gestapo-like enclosures with chain link fence around them. That's okay for them. A snack stand where all that Regal was asking, and it's not about Regal, by the way, it's about girls in town. Forget Regal. A snack stand when all Regal was asking was to be able to sell Gatorade to their players or candy bars after the game. We were told that no, it's going to be overrun by rats if we build that snack stand. Not hot dogs, hamburgers, and things like this. This is what the Board of Education has been dealing with us in earnest and telling us all along. So this Board of Education hasn't been working for us. I don't believe they will. Ms. Danahy, I have not met her other than once at opening day Regal. Seems lovely. I have no reason to believe that what she says isn't true. However, the last superintendent kept telling us that the Board of Education was a stumbling block. The Board of Education kept preventing this from happening, and it is the Board of Education that stopped the project in the first place, and that is why we didn't go forward. Plus, if anybody has ever rented a house, think back when you rented a house. If the homeowner said, go ahead, add an extension to my house, okay, put a couple $100,000, put $600,000 of drainage into my backyard, would you have done it as renters? Well, that's what we're being asked to do with the Board of Education. So I don't know why we're applauding this plan. We should be focusing in on improving municipal fields only and giving the girls in this town something that they can work with. I'm going to just end by reading two documents. I ask for everybody's patience. The documents are going to be handed over to the clerk, and then they're going to be published. I speak fast. I'm excited. It's been a very, very long week, so forgive me. I will try to slow down. Okay, bear with me. The first is a letter I didn't compose to the mayor and council. Okay, I'd like to read this letter. Dear Mayor and Council, during last week's council meeting, the mayor was shocked to learn that many previous presentations had been made to the Mayor and Council, the Recreation Commission, the River Edge Board of Education, and the Riverdale Board of Education. By their silence, the rest of the council also appeared shocked. Who was responsible for informing the Mayor and Council on recreation issues? And why didn't they do their job? The township attorney seemed stunned that gender equity issues had been raised by Regal previously. Who was responsible for informing the attorney that such matters had been raised? It's amazing. Here you have a dedicated group of volunteer citizens doing their best to call attention to inequities in the community, and they are criticized by the Recreation Commission and scolded by the mayor. Yes, Mayor, many Regal supporters are angry and frustrated over the recent proposed delays to improving the fields of our town. They are upset because the township has given them few improvements and lots of promises, which later turned out to be mere lip service. You asked for documentation of earlier presentations, and you'll see in the attached packet that I have fully documented those presentations that I was involved with during the period of 1995 and through 1998. I have also found some documentation that indicates Regal was lobbying for the field improvements almost 20 years ago. Incidentally, most of these improvements were never made either. Regal proponents have had to put up with years of constant postponements, cancellations, and delays. Please review the enclosures carefully. It will take but a few minutes to learn that Regal and others have been seeking these improvements for many years. The enclosed information will show you how we got here. The key is, where do we go from here? The town attorney stated that the girls of Regal just might have to accept what they have because that's all that's available. I strongly disagree with that statement. Legally, and perhaps more importantly, morally, the township is required to provide equally available fields for the girls as they provide for the boys. Since you already provide 2.5 town fields for the boys, you are mandated to provide the same availability to the girls. And what do the girls have? They have to share one town field, KGB, with the men's softball league. That is, if REABA or Riverdale isn't playing on the baseball field at KGB. If you've already read the enclosed 1999 ACLU lawsuit, you will see there is much more that the town is required to do. If the boys have bathroom facilities, scoreboards, and concession stands, then the same must be provided to the girls. How do we get more field availability for the girls? First, I don't think anyone wants to take away from the boys' programs or men's programs in town. However, we have had a huge increase in the demands for field availability due to population growth and increased participation in sports such as soccer, field hockey, softball, etc. If we as a town have not prepared a master plan to analyze and address these issues, we will not be able to meet the challenges of the future. Such a plan must review current population trends and try to utilize all township and school fields in a fair and equitable manner. The following are some possible options that would immediately improve field availability for the girls of our town. Number 1. Strip and level one of Memorial Field's baseball fields and reconstruct it so it can be used by both baseball and softball. This could be done by purchasing a portable mound for the strip field. Number 2, strip at least one of 2 Roosevelt fields to clay. This would allow it to be used as an official softball field. The addition of bathroom facilities would be helpful. These changes must be made expeditiously. Number 3, repair Cherry Hill and provide bathroom facilities. Do it quickly. Number 4, allow full use of the KBG softball field and find another home for the men's softball and REABA, perhaps the middle school field where the girl freshman team plays. Vigorously pursue the possibility of using property near the town dump for more town fields. Ed Lane and Tom Moran proposed this project at least 4 years ago. No doubt there are other possible remedies. Mayor and Council, I come to this issue as a concerned citizen. My daughter is off to college next year. I am no longer affiliated with Regal, although I'd more than be willing to volunteer my time to this cause. I attended last week's meeting, and I write this letter because I was involved in the process years ago and would simply like to see it finally brought to a successful outcome. The girls deserve a fair shake that they've never been provided. What signal do we send our daughters when we, in effect, tell them that boys get Memorial Park, like complexes with scoreboards, bathrooms, and concession stands, while girls get to use KBG for about 1/3 of its available time? If this situation existed in our schools, Title IX lawsuits will be quickly filed and the problem resolved. You have a legal mandate and a moral obligation to provide, quote, Title IX type relief, close quote, for the girls of River Edge. Please don't fail to address that responsibly. Sincerely, Alan M. Sandner, Regal Facilities Coordinator. This letter was written in November 26, 2001. 2001. Next, I'm going to read an editorial. Okay, an editorial from the Bergen Record. I know, it's terrible. You got to hear this stuff, though, right? The title of the editorial is "Where Girls Lose Out." Okay, and the subtitle is "In River Edge, Boys Sports Come First."
I need for everyone to allow Councilman Canigo to speak, if you could, especially to allow the people in the hallway to hear. Thank you.
The article is entitled "Where Girls Lose Out," subtitled "In River Edge, Boys Sports Come First." It's not surprising that the girls who play for the River Edge Girls Athletic League feel like second-class citizens. As far as the borough is concerned, they apparently are. The field on which the girls play softball is uneven and rough. There are no bathroom facilities, so they are often driven to public restrooms several blocks away. And since the 300 girls who play in the league have just one field with only partial use of another, they spend a lot of time on the bench. That is, they would if they had a bench to sit on. Now compare with the borough's facilities for its Little League, which serves mostly boys. They play at the borough-owned Veterans Memorial Park, which has 2 well-maintained baseball fields, bathroom facilities, a concession stand, a water fountain, a pitching warm-up area, bleachers, and a scoreboard, and benches. The Little League, which consists of 375 boys and about 60 girls at the time, also has access to 2 other fields in the borough. What kind of message does this send, inequality send to the girls? The Girls Softball League has been asking the borough for improved facilities since 1982. To no avail. The borough recently said it would make some improvements to the girls' field, but simply adding in some new dirt and a backstop, as the borough has proposed, doesn't address the later failings. These girls deserve better. They deserve to play on a field as good as the ones the Little League teams play on. They deserve a second field so the teams can be small and the girls can get more time. I'm not going to read the rest of the article. It'll be published. Look, folks, I don't agree with everything that was said. I'm not looking to take any fields away from anybody, but I do believe that we should be building a field for the girls. I don't believe this third plan does anything other than spend $900,000, which is probably going to be more at the end of the day, and nothing's going to be done. Then we're going to be asked to put in, $600,000, $700,000 in drainage and so forth in Roosevelt, and it's not fields that belong to us. I trust Kathy Dennehy, although I've never met her, but Tom trusts her, and he's met her, and that's good enough for me. But she might not be here 5 or 10 years from now, and this board might not be here 5 or 10 years from now, and maybe the teachers will strike because they decide that they need parking closer to the school. And when that happens, maybe the Board of Education 10 years from now is going to say, those field improvements, we really need that space back. Who knows? Are they going to give us a 20-year lease or a 50-year lease? I doubt it. A plan that builds the girls a new field, whether it's a Memorial Park or somewhere else, is something that this council should be pursuing. Okay, and if it doesn't work here, let's not waste money on these improvements, although I understand that there are some improvements that need to be done, but this is not the time. And if you guys don't want to invest any money in this, let's not throw $1 million down another project, which is going to necessarily entail trucks coming into the park being torn up, trees coming down, because it's going to happen. Drainage means that you got to dig under and you got to put pipes down. So those trees are coming down as well. So let's not pretend like this is all great. And I don't even know where this proposed drainage is going to be. I'm assuming it's probably the boys' baseball fields, because that kind of needs drainage.
So that's a question.
I'm thinking that's what the money's going to go to.
So, Mr. Costa, if you could just give us a general idea to that point, where would the drainage in Plan 3 occur? Overview. Very much an overview.
Just very broad stroke. Obviously, by the hockey rink There's drainage that comes in there, that collects around the rink, by the basketball fields. Anybody that's gone through the park after it rains, especially when my son drops his dog off and I have to walk it numerous times in the morning and evening. When it rains, there is puddling, obviously, throughout the park and ponding. That would have to be addressed, obviously, with any of these improvements. And then again, areas where Jason, the DPW director, has gone out there, if you walk into the center portion, it's very difficult to grow grass in a lot of the areas. That needs to be looked at because, again, with the summer programs, the children playing there, it's a mud pit in the center.
So are you saying that pretty much all of the park, part of the park, the west side of the park, the east side of the park, the center of the park?
Sampling throughout the park, but
Sampling
not just, not limited in the north, the south, the east, or the west, sampling throughout the entire park.
Okay.
Needs some improvements.
I recognize Councilwoman Bastide.
Thank you. So maybe I didn't make my point clear enough, but by waiting for another grant application in 2023, it gives this council and this community an opportunity to bring the stakeholders together before a concept plan is put together. That's my We absolutely, Councilman Kanigo, you are 100% correct. We have an uphill battle with the school and the Board of Education,
And the council.
but it gives us, listen, I'm not going to be here on January 1st. December 31st is my last day here up on the dais. So I have no political, there's no issue here.
That's
for
why you
me
can
but
make
to
these
try-
promises. Let's speak in earnest with the Board of Education. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Councilman Kanigo, I'm going to remind you, Councilman, hold on, everybody. Councilman Kanigo, I'm going to reprimand you and remind you that we are going to let each council person speak, and then if you wish to rebut, you absolutely have the right. So there will be no cross debate. We're going
Apologies.
to debate from speakers.
We've done it different for the past 5 years.
I know,
Apologies.
but I said
Apologies.
those-
All right, fine. We've done it different for the past 5 years. I apologize.
No, I said for this particular event.
I
this is what-
apologize. You're right. We did it different. That's why I jumped
Go
in.
ahead.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I get what you're saying.
I am
Okay.
apologizing.
Go
That's
ahead.
all.
Councilwoman Bastide.
A field at Memorial Park, I feel, will have more of an adverse effect on the entire community than not pursuing other avenues. That's all I want to say, and I respect your comments. I respect you reading the letters into the record. I think they're a valuable piece of the history of this community and should be considered, but I just want to make sure that everybody understands my point.
Councilman Kanigo. Since that was a rebuttal of your position, you would have first opportunity to speak. Do you wish to speak?
No. Thank
Okay.
you.
Would any other member of council wish to speak or offer a comment at this time? If not, then we will be going to the public. Mr. Costa, I think at this time, thank you very much, and Jason and Greg. Sorry, Greg. Do you?
Stay, leave.
What do we think?
Whatever you want me to do, I will do. Your wish is my command.
I don't think you need him.
I don't think, if the council is willing, we will dismiss Mr. Costa and Associates. Could everyone give a round of applause to Mr. Costa and Associates?
Good night, Mayor. Good night, everybody.
The questions come up.
Okay, great.
And somebody could say.
Okay, so what we're going to do is, since this was a proposal that was initiated by Regal over the last 17 years, we're going to hear first from the Regal president, then we're going to hear from the Rec Commission, then we're going to hear from the leaders of those who wish to save the park, as they put it, and I want to present them as they would have themselves presented, and then we would begin another round. Now, the leaders of the Save the Park movement have asked that 4 of their speakers be given preference. Since they do represent the group, without objection, I would, as we go through the rounds, I would hear them. But I would like to afford the same to the Rec Commission or to Regal, that if you wish for me to recognize someone in particular ahead of others, then I would allow that. So I call the president of Regal forward. Okay, it is now 8:11. We will allow comments till 9:11, and then the council will, I will ask council if they wish to extend it for another 30 minutes or not. If they do not, then at 9:11, 9:12, because I'm talking, okay. So we will stop. We will not, the council will not be responding to the speakers. We will instead write down any questions, and then we have to open to the public, my bad. Okay. Could I have a motion to open to public comments on any item on the agenda, but I'm going to actually restrict, no, I'm not. Any item on the agenda. Could I have a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Is there any opposed or any abstentions? Hearing none, we are open to the public. It is, what?
2 minutes.
You have 2 minutes. Everyone has 2 minutes, including the leaders of the different groups. Begin.
So residents, I don't have music like the Oscars to wrap it up, so with 10 seconds, I'll just put my hand up, and then I'll put my hand down. And yes, I've hit the apex of my legal career by keeping the 2-minute time. So.
Everyone, Mr. Sarlo. All right.
Ready? Okay. I'm Beth Keenigo. I'm the president of the River Edge Girls Athletic League. Regal was established in 1965. I've been serving on this board as a volunteer since 2009, and I became president in 2019. Regal, as an organization, has been arguing for equal facilities from the municipality through the Recreation Commission and directly, almost from the inception of the organization. I come here tonight to plead our case, per se, to convince the public that Regal does not have equal access to the fields that the borough owns, to convince people that Regal needs a municipal field that is owned by the town, to explain some of the hoops we have jumped through in our attempts to achieve equality for the girls in our programs. But unfortunately, here we are, and Regal is still not receiving equal treatment from the borough and the Recreation Commission. Regal has always supported the application for open space grant money. Regal has supported applying for this money even when we were told that Regal would not benefit directly. We're proponents of the borough's attempts to get every dollar we can for the benefit of all park spaces and the citizens of River Edge. Regal also supports the proposal to build a field for our female players. The field needs to be on municipal land. To provide any less is unfair to the little girls in this town. Right now, in order to hang a simple banner at Roosevelt, Regal needed to put in a request to the rec department. Then we had to wait while rec talked to the BOE. Then rec told me I needed to ask BOE directly because they were unable to help me. The process took over 4 months, and me appearing at a BOE meeting to beg the BOE permission to hang a simple banner at Roosevelt. That's not good faith. Imagine the hoops that I'm going to have to jump to, that Regal is going to have to jump through in order to request dugouts or to get funds to pay for them. It is shameful that the council would consider not applying for grant money. To provide any less than a full-time municipal field for the girls' softball program is unfair to these little girls. Every time a Regal player is at Roosevelt Field with subpar drainage, no irrigation, no shades, no dugouts, no scoreboard, no fences to try and hit one out of the park, and then they see their male counterparts playing a similar game on a field that is considered the gem of River Edge.
Time.
The people of this town are telling them that they are second-class citizens.
Time.
That they are not as important as the boys, and they should just make do.
Say the same thing to everyone. No, we cannot do that. We will not be treating everyone equally. Beth has the option of calling other people up to finish her statement. We're going to be fair, and the fairness is going to be 2 minutes. So the next persons will be the Rec Commission, either one member from the commission or all members, but you all get 2 minutes. Sorry, Beth.
Thank you for your time, and I really hope you guys vote for this proposal.
Okay, thank you. Rec Commission. Please state your name and your address, and then feel free to begin. And once you begin speaking, that's when the clock will begin, after you say your name and address.
Anna D'Elia, Tenney Avenue. I'm the Vice Chair of the Recreation Commission, and I'm here to read a statement on behalf of the majority of the Commission members. The Recreation Commission learned of this project last week by word of mouth and social media. We were not consulted or informed of any plans to build an additional field at Memorial Park. Once finding out, the Commission was deeply disheartened that we had no part in this discussion. We meet each month to discuss ways to improve our town's recreation so that all can benefit. For example, we've previously requested to add pickleball lines to our tennis courts as we saw a need for many residents to use this. We were turned down when this would have been a minimal amount of money. This large and costly project was not shared with us openly. Yesterday, the mayor and Councilman Chinigo met with the members of the commission at Memorial Park to review the plans to use more of the park for a softball field. The majority of the commission is in full support of discussing a realistic option to provide our Regal teams with a field. However, we do not support using Memorial Park as a home for this field. Memorial Park is a space for all residents to use on a daily basis, and simply taking down most of it to add a field, we feel would not be what's best for the majority of our residents. There are other options we did bring up at our meeting yesterday that we would like to continue to discuss as a commission, along with the other stakeholders, in order to best serve all residents of River Edge. Given that there are other options we would like to explore, simply applying for a grant without specifics does not seem like a viable plan. Once all research is done, we would be in favor of revisiting how we can provide a field like this for our girls. It is important to us to have a plan and to work together to best serve and support all residents of this town.
All right, thank you, Renee? Say your full name and your address.
Sure. Renee Munoz, 215 Webb Avenue, River Edge, New Jersey. Basically what she said. I think our biggest objection here, and by the way, Councilman Bustid, thank you for proposing an alternate plan. We appreciate it greatly. Councilman Canigo, your passion for this project is impressive. And I think we're all moved by the fact that that you're willing to go up there and fight for it. And I want you to know that the residents who are here today trying to save Memorial Park are not opposed to what you want in River Edge. We want the girls to have the fields that they deserve. That said, I think our biggest objection here today is that this whole thing is rushed, poorly communicated, and not shared with the residents at all. I had to discover this. My neighbor comes by and said, hey, did you see the 627 video? We all run inside to watch this, and within 4 days, we have to prepare a response from the community to this board. And I think that's unfair. You need to loop us into this process. Shade Tree and Rec have just told you the same thing. Or Shade Tree's gonna tell you the same thing. Apologies. I'm getting ahead of myself here. Loop us in. We want to know. We are happy to vote as a community and bring this back to you. We're part of this discussion. We're the taxpayers. Please bring us into the loop. We're thrilled that we have an alternate number 3 proposal. But if I had to say, if you asked me right now which option I prefer, it's option 4. I want a longer conversation about this. If that means we skip this grant season, that's fine with me. Let's have a conversation about what's right with the Board of Ed. This group.
Time.
Okay, that's fine.
Remember, you're going to have an option to pick people to come up and speak, so that's fine. Okay, we're back to Beth. Beth, is there anyone in particular you want to call on, or anyone? Al, come up, say your name and your address, please, and you'll have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Alphonse Bartoloni, 719 Oak Avenue. Thank you. Just briefly, I want to thank all of you for bringing this to our attention, for going forward with this, because this is an issue that's been ongoing for a very long time. To speak to the Board of Ed issue, I drafted a lease agreement when I was on the council 4 years ago between the Board of Ed and this borough, and it's gone nowhere since then. So I think that gives you some indication of the relationship between the borough and the Board of Ed. For whatever reason, I don't understand it, but that seems to be the relationship. I'm disappointed in option number 3, Councilwoman, simply because, one, it doesn't factor in later on the cost of remodeling and renovating Roosevelt if the Board of Ed agrees to. It simply does the renovations to Memorial Park. And 3, all 3 plans still include batting cages for Little League. Little League came before the Rec Commission asking to be able to put up $5,000 worth of batting cages, and they're walking away with a $50,000, $60,000 batting cage. And again, the girls are getting nothing. Just way of background, I've coached softball for the last 10 years. I have 2 daughters, one of whom went through the program, and another one who is maybe has 2 years left. I've coached rec and travel seasons. In the spring, the field at Roosevelt, due to heavy rains, are soggy messes. Home plate in the north field is unusable. The south field patches the outfield, particularly around third base, are underwater. Every year, more sand is added to the fields, but the underlying drainage issues are never addressed. The outfield is a disaster in the spring as well, due to the fact that soccer plays on those fields in the fall. By the time you get in the spring, there's nothing left but a mud pit. It's dangerous, and it presents a slipping hazard to the girls when you're trying to do outfield drills. And just the concrete, really the sand on the fields is concrete. It's dangerous to the girls. You cannot practice sliding because it presents a hazard to them, and it needs to be addressed. And please address the inequity that exists.
Time.
Look at the fields in Memorial and look at the field at Roosevelt. There's a clear inequity.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bartoloni. Rec Commission, do you have someone who you would like to speak, or do you wish to step out of the rotation?
We have 2 more commissioners here.
They can both come up together, or they can come up one at a time. You will both need to say your names and address. You don't have to actually say your house number, just your street. Is the street number acceptable? Just the street number.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Marianne Comar, Voorhees Avenue.
And
Oh, Alicia, but can I have 2 minutes too?
you can, but the next round. If it's either 2 minutes for both of you, or 2 minutes and then you got to leave and come back. So we'd ask you to return to your seat for the time being. Turn to the seat. So we'd
She's
ask you
gonna
to
do next
return to your
round.
seat for the time being, and we will call you up again later. All right.
All right. Again, my name is Marianne Comar. I live at 124 Voorhees Avenue. I didn't know there was going to be an option 3, so kind of what I'm saying speaks a little bit differently now that we have an option 3. But I have 2 children, a boy and a girl, ages 9 and 12. So both my children are in Regal and in Little League. We are an active family when it comes to River Edge sports. We utilize all that River Edge has to offer. I'm a member of the Recreation Committee. I've been on this committee for the past 3 years. I've learned a lot in my 3 years. I see that as a committee, we are committed to doing what is best and right for the town and its residents in a fair and equitable way. In the past, projects for the town have been discussed, and Recreation Committee was always part of the conversation. For whatever reason, the Recreation Committee was not informed of the subcommittees and their plans to add a softball field to our Memorial Park. On June 29th, I found out about this project at the KBG parking lot after my husband's softball game. I stood there along with a few other current Regal board members, and we were all surprised about this plan and how far it seemed to have gone with none of us knowing anything about it. Last night, Mayor Papaleo and Councilman Canigo met with us at the park and explained what was in the works for the second plan. As I stood there listening to the plans at what was being proposed, I felt very emotional and quite honestly sick to my stomach over the plan to change Memorial Park. Children were playing and families were walking and bike riding as we stood there, talking about what would be taken down and moved and replaced with a softball field. Ellen, thank you for coming up for option 3, because that is something that we would like, well, I would like to see as well. I'm not against having a Regal field for the girls. In fact, my daughter's in Regal. She's only in 3rd grade. She likes softball. I would like her to have a nice field as well. This is where I have to kind of go rogue because I didn't know about her third. I know tonight you're voting on the need for grant money. If the grant money is not proposed for a softball field, I feel more comfortable and less skeptical that the money would be going to the right spot. Towards the field. Did you cut me off?
No.
Oh, I was like, did you cut my mic?
You only have 3 minutes left. 3 seconds, rather. Time.
Thank you.
All right. All right. Okay, Renee, who are you guys picking?
Michelle's going to get up and speak for the safety of the park.
Okay.
Hi.
Name and address.
Michelle Ballin, 725 Elm Avenue. I watched the YouTube meeting and I heard the word alternatives used over and over. And when we met the mayor in the park on Sunday, I specifically asked for those subcommittee reports of all the different alternatives, thinking of things the councilwoman shared here, Ellen shared, as well as raising KBG, turfing the fields, all different alternatives, yet I was met with the response that there are no subcommittee reports. And that, to me, is the biggest problem. If you've been exploring this for 17, 20 years, why don't we have a set of alternatives to review and look at the cost-benefit analysis of each one? Because I don't think anyone disagrees with Mr. Canigo that our girls deserve a Regal field. However, my biggest concern is if we're talking about the Bergen Open Space Trust Fund grant, which I believe we are from the discussions, we have already put in the Brookside proposal. And with that proposal, they're in council now discussing that. So the letter of intent doesn't open again until February. The review process isn't again until May. If we have hundreds of people who are against something that you put in, even if you vote for it, I don't think the county officials are going to support that either, especially when we also vote them in. So I think it's an important consideration.
Thank you. Beth, back to you. Do you have a speaker, or should I call at someone at random who is in support?
We do not have anyone else from Regal here.
Okay. Ken, I want to give you an option since you've had the longest history with this. Would you like to speak? Okay.
My name's Ken Krautheim. I live on Beach Drive North. Let's see, Regal, 17 years. President of Regal for 10 of them. Have made numerous pitches. I've been through many mayors. Apologize, Mayor, but I've been through a lot of you. I've been through a lot of you guys. We've pitched all types of avenues, all types of situations. I'm not discounting that Kathy Dennehy's a different person. Kathy actually, little people know, had girls come through that I personally coached. It's not about her. It's about what the rest of those board members do when we get behind closed doors. They have shot down every proposal. We have proposed batting cages different ways, snack stands different ways, field renovations different ways. And when one solves their issue, they find another option to cancel the program and whatever availability is there. I've been a rec commissioner for many, many years. I can't even remember how long. I think it's 10 or 12. I've watched budget councils. I've been on the budget committee for 5 mayors. Watched all kinds of proposals go through the House for the boys' baseball. There's a lobby for a Freedom of Information Act to show how much money the town has spent on the boys' program since 1970. So somebody's going to be busy in the office. But you will see the inequity that's been done for the girls' program over the course of, I could do it for 10 years and you would see a gross inequity. The last name's Krautheim, sorry, sir, but I just want to clarify that for the record.
I always do that wrong. I apologize.
That's all right. That's all right. But, again, hoping that there's another girls' avenue. I think the field in the memorial was a great idea. I just don't see anything going out at Roosevelt. Sorry to say. Thank you.
Try and talk really fast.
Name and address. You don't need to say the house number, though.
Alicia Armental, 200 Mohawk Drive. Ready?
I'm very slow starting, so.
Okay, all right.
All right.
I've been on the
Very
rec commission
liberal on
for
the
almost 15 years. I have 3 daughters, all of which play softball, along with many other sports. I'm actually missing 2 of my daughter's travel games to be here tonight. I understand the purpose of the vote tonight, and I'm well aware of how open space funding works. I believe that it's irresponsible and misleading to not only the community of River Edge, but the county of Bergen, to put forth a proposal that we're not all in agreement with. As a Recreation Commission, we've always worked well and have been respected by the Mayor and Council. For the past few years, that has not been the case. Projects that we've put forth have been shot down and communication is non-existent. Hence us finding out about this proposal through Facebook. The Mayor and Councilman Canigo got wind of how upset we were and asked for a meeting. Last night we met up at the park. Councilman Canigo and the Mayor promised that we would make a valiant effort to open lines of communication going forward, and I look forward to that. I'd like to reiterate some points that were brought up last night. First and foremost, with softball, 7 fields are available for the girls of River Edge to play on. It's hard to believe that we need to take open space away from a community park and build another one. I think that we all can agree that all of our facilities need to be updated, but that doesn't call for an additional field to be built. With increased participation of lacrosse and soccer in our community, why are we not looking to serve these children with equitable facilities? With the 2 softball fields at Roosevelt, we spoke about going to the superintendent of schools to revisit the idea of making Roosevelt a home for Regal softball. The mayor told us he hasn't reached out for a meeting, and this is frustrating, as the narrative has often been that the Board of Ed is not willing to work with the municipality. While this may be the truth with previous superintendents, look at what has changed in a short period of time. With the mayor's help, Regal was able to have a shed to house their equipment, and there was no complaints about signage on their fence. So why not continue to work collaboratively with the Board of Ed so that the girls can not only have 1, but 2 fields to call home? When we spoke about whether or not we can all reallocate open space funds, both Councilman Kinigo and the mayor had 2 conflicting responses, and that's also a problem. Another topic was addressing the drainage at Memorial. One of the rec commissioners who was there, whose backyard is the park, enlightened us as to where the flooding occurs, which is nowhere near the proposed field. The mayor said that he didn't do a study yet to see about the drainage, and that's exactly why I'm concerned. So in coming up with this plan, you didn't consult the rec commission or the entire Regal board until last night, nor did you complete a topographical study to study the drainage issues.
I know.
I was so close! So close!
Jim, where are you? Jim, you're up.
I'll bring Plan 5 up.
Name and address. You do not need to say your house number.
Okay. Jim Srodnicki, Monroe Ave.
Good.
Thank you. Thank you, Council, for allowing me the chance to speak. I had a lot to say, but I think a lot's already been said about the topic. It's great to live in River Edge. It's a wonderful town. It's wonderful that we have a participative government here and people that listen to ideas. I had a chance to talk to the group. I'm familiar with the sports in town. The idea of gutting Memorial Park to include an additional single-use facility is just runs counter to what our open spaces have been about traditionally, historically, what we all use them for. The girls do need to have a place to play softball. They have a few places. We've talked a little bit about equitable use. We have existing facilities, yet it doesn't sound like we've done too much right now to look at equitable use of the facilities that we have. We've talked about working with the Board of Ed. We need our council and our Board of Ed to work together. That's why we elect you, to work together for solutions for this town. And from what I've heard, and we all come from different perspectives on what we believe in our political beliefs tonight, I think this group, everyone wants to do the right things for the town. We have slightly different opinions, but if we can't be stuck for another 17 years figuring this thing out, and no is not a good answer, and elections have consequences. If we're seeing that, and this goes to everybody, if the same Board of Ed people have been there forever and they're not getting the job done, we need different people in the Board of Ed. But let's not gut our parks over what it sounds like we have small differences: signages and a snack stand. Let's not gut Memorial Park over signage and a snack stand. Also, a small note, Memorial Park is part of Green Acres that has an encumbrance under Rosie due to the Cherry Blossom Park. It may be a little more difficult to do a change of use like the plans anyway, so the timeline might be a little longer than you planned. It sounds like we're more of the opinion to look at some alternatives and hopefully work together to get a solution. Thank you.
Beth, do you have someone in particular you want to call up, or should I just call up someone in support of? I did not make that as the rule, and okay. Is anyone in the crowd who'd like to speak in favor of the field in Memorial? Please raise your hand. Ken, come on up. Please say your name and your address.
I know the routine. Good evening, Ken Schaffenhauer, 780 Millbrook Road. Might also call me word of mouth because I was the one who attended the last meeting. I guess the issue I take is just the whole process. The rec committee, commission, whatever they are now, has very valid points. One person at the meeting should not be the one kind of alerting them to what is going on. Lived on, as I said at the last meeting, lived on the park most of my life. parks evolve. If this process was here, you wouldn't have the hockey rink. You wouldn't have a basketball court that was lit. You would have an ice hockey rink that didn't freeze. You'd have two ditches that ran parallel to the park. So parks evolve. With regards to Little League, it's a municipal field. It's not a Little League complex. It's a town field. So not going to gain any favor with a lot of my friends, but that should be looked into and stressed. To me, it's common sense. I'm not diametrically opposed either to the field presentation. I had major concerns as far as parking when you get rid of a cul-de-sac. Then you're going to have two streets dead-ending into and having people making K-turns in front of the Garcia house and by the Munoz house. So it wasn't well thought out. The town in the past has hired a park planner to discuss such things. Jason did a great job. Mr. Costa, very good, but he's got a financial horse in the race as far as at the end of the day. And I'm not particularly fond of some of his jokes. But Plan 3, I think if you vote for Plan 3, it effectively shuts down any field discussion at Memorial Park, because you've seen the pushback when people were saying, we just spent $250,000 on a hockey rink, you spend $900,000 on a field, on a park renovation. There's going to be no stomach to overturn a lot of the work that will have been done.
Time.
Thank
you, Ken. Does the Rec Commission have someone who they'd like to call forward? Okay, cool.
Steve Baxter, some of you know me, some of you love me. 864 Fifth Avenue. I'm going to finish up with what Alicia was saying. So, when coming up with this plan, you didn't consult with the Rec Commission or the entire Regal Board until we met last night. Nor did you complete a topographical study to address the drainage issues. You didn't consult with the traffic and safety to see how they felt about getting rid of the cul-de-sacs and making dead ends. What else haven't you done, or what else hasn't been done to create a comprehensive plan for implementation? We don't have a plan, we have an idea, and that idea is going to cost at least $1.3 million. What's going to happen when we get the real quote and it's hundreds of $1,000s more? Then what do? We're only asking for $500, but where's the rest of that money going to come from? And just going back to address some of the stuff with the boys' baseball, the open space grant money that we've used, we've reallocated that for the Little League. So that's where they're getting their money from too.
Anything else, Steve? You still have time.
That's it, I'm done.
Renee.
Mike D.
You know the routine, right?
Yeah, Mike DeSanctis. I back up to Elm Avenue. I live on the park, and I want to stress the word park. It's not an athletic facility that I back up to, and I hope it never happens. But I am, I'd say, I grew up in River Edge. I'm 30 years now on the park. I am pro-Regal. I coached Regal for 10 years. I started one of the first 10-year-old travel teams. Many of the girls I coached went on to play Riverdale, very successful. So I am pro-softball, and I'm pro-equality. And Councilman Bastide, with her number 3 proposal, is a home run. You just have to now take the north field and skin it and share that facility. I don't know what you want to go after. You don't want, you say the Board of Ed is challenging, but you own the field. I don't know why, and I'm not going to make any friends here either. One of my best friends is Little League. But it's time to share. And I think you get everything you're asking for. You're going to get your banners. You're going to get your concession stand. You're going to get your home run fence. You're going to get everything you need, and it should be that way. Share it and let the boys share Roosevelt with them. I grew up playing baseball in Roosevelt's fields. Okay, it was a big to-do to go play at Memorial with the fence, but you didn't get there until majors. Okay, the little kids played. Little kids played at Roosevelt. They can share now, Roosevelt. Still deal with that Board of Ed, and if you ever crack them, great. So I think Councilman Bastide's home run is just, you just have to come to grips that you're going to have to address that you own the field, and you might have to address the Little League.
It was Malalari, just to, sorry.
Oh, skinning it, Bastide putting up the third option, which is a home run. Please, we don't want to lose a tree. We don't want to lose any park. Hey, I know Al Sanders, and in that letter he wrote to you, he did say skin the field and share the facility.
You did?
Okay.
No. We're not going to do that.
Okay, no, I'm just saying, thank you.
Okay.
Apologies.
All right. Is there anyone who would like to speak in support of the field in Memorial?
I would like to just speak as a...
Would you like to speak in support of the field? Sure. Go ahead. Come on up. Name and address.
I'm Abigail Bartoloni, and I live on Oak Ave.
Go ahead.
So I am a softball player. I'm in high school. I'm going into 10th grade, and I went through the Regal system. And I've actually done high school podcasts and asked professional people what they thought about the equality in softball and the unfairness and stuff.
Go ahead.
I had to live with the fact that Little League was owned pretty much Memorial Field. I also had to deal with the fact of sliding into third base and then having scars down my leg. I had to deal with the whole going through that and knowing that Little League had better than I would ever have. Now, I'm in the high school and it's better and all that stuff, but if you ask any softball player that went through that, they could tell you straight up that we're screwed. We have scars on ourselves from sliding or playing the game itself. We don't have a snack stand. We don't even have a fence. If you want to hit a home run, you have to keep running because there's no way to know if you got over the fence. I didn't have that. Boys at my school did, and they talk about it and they get fun. But I do think that there is a time that we can't push it off any longer. I want my sister and other future generation girls to have something that I didn't have. That's all about what we're trying to do in progress and equality and everything that help the future generations. And I think that's really important. So that's all I really wanted to say.
Rec Commission, do you have someone? Hold on. I do have a woman with a young child who's asked to speak because the child is of age. So if, without objection, we're going to let this. I don't know what side she's on, but she wanted to speak with her daughter. So, okay.
Hi, I'm Susan Russo from Bogart Road. This is Juliana.
Everybody say hello to Juliana.
She had her birthday party at the Park Pavilion yesterday. Again, I apologize we didn't have enough bubbles. Our Facebook fans will understand what that means. But Juliana had some thoughts about the playground. The first being, we're getting shy. We only have 2 minutes. He's going to flag us.
Actually, she's too young to testify, so you're going to have to speak for her.
All right, I'm going to give you a whole bunch of hearsay. We like to call it that. All right, here we go. So she would like to point out that to rip out, or her word was destroy, a playground seems very bad, especially when we're in a town that has 2 fields. Mom couldn't help but notice that it sounds like we're afraid to clash with other groups, and instead we would rip out a playground to build a 3rd field. I think that sounds absurd. There are 2 fields. I'm a little alarmed that we just assume they are men's fields, boys' fields. I didn't think we separated things like that anymore, but maybe I'm a little too modern. I don't understand why we couldn't share what we have available in town. Okay, there we go. We got a yes on that. I think that we have a beautiful park. We like to call it a park and not an athletic field. Also, we want to point out that little kids don't play as well with big kids in a playground. So we like the idea of having separate facilities. It would be nice to be able to see the kids, but I don't want to ask for too much here. I think we're just about out of time. Let's say thank you to all of our friends for giving you a voice. Thank you. Thank you. And we're going home because it's bedtime.
Right, no problem. All right, at this point, I kind of interrupted the rotation, but it was in opposition. So would rec be okay if I move straight to Save the Park? Okay, great. Renee?
We're opening it up at this point. A lot of people have questions out there. Who wants to ask a question? Yeah, why don't you come on up?
Okay, so as we said, we're going to write down the questions. We're not going to be answering them. We're not going to enter in a back and forth. And then we would move on to someone opposed if there is, and then back. Okay?
Understood.
Hello. Diane Dunleavy, Manchester Road, Riveridge. First of all, thank you all for serving. I know you give of your time throughout the year, so we appreciate it. Just kind of a suggestion, this may sound kind of crazy, and I know your time that you put in is certainly more than you ever get out of it, but it seems like one of the objections that, one of the things that are bringing everyone to the same page right here is the need for updating the fields and the needs for sharing and not waiting another 17 years or 10 years or 5 years. So my question is, and Councilman Bastide, thank you for your plan. We have Plan 1, 2, and 3. How about Plan A? And Plan A of what if we develop a calendar and we say 1 year out from now, this is where we want to be. And we back up from that and we post when the meetings are going to be with the different stakeholders, including the town people. We can use the kiosk to let people know. And then say, okay, this is our 1 year. We're going to have a plan that the girls get what they need. And we're not going to keep kicking the can down the road. And then where do we go from there? And if we can't do everything in 1 year, we got to show some progress. What's our 5-year plan? And then how do we get there? And then be held to it so we don't keep getting this along the way. I don't know if this is how you work. I haven't done what you do. I appreciate everything you do. Sorry. So I just want to thank you for that and see, could we consider maybe, because it seems like this is what everyone's afraid of. If we pass on this, we're going to be back to the same spot all over again. Could we put real timelines out and hold to them so we know in 1 year from now we would be in a much better place than if we move too quickly right now and we get the girls what they need? Thank you.
We are now to someone opposed. Someone in support.
What about Shade Tree? I think Shade Tree wants to speak.
You know what? I really should have included you guys from the beginning. I apologize. Just wasn't thinking. And if you both want to come up, we'll give you 4 minutes because we've had everybody else speak.
I can speak for
Is everyone okay with that?
Yes.
So, you're both going to present, and the only reason I'm doing that is I kind of left them out of the rotation, and they do also represent a major constituency of our borough, so they would be then for leaders. And since they've missed out on the rotation, we're going to give them 4 minutes. You got to say both. You got to say both of you have to introduce yourself at once.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm Liz Stewart. On the Shade Tree Commission. I'm also a New Jersey licensed arborist.
But and you live on?
Wells Avenue.
And?
Jen Dougherty. I've live on Elm Avenue, and I've been part of the Shade Tree Commission for 25 years.
Your 4 minutes begins.
Me as well. Okay.
For both of you.
So we're not here to be opposed or for it, but we're here to speak for the trees and to educate. There's been a lot of talk about trees, and as per our borough ordinance, we are in charge of the trees in town, regulation. So what I'd like to say is the trees are not causing flooding or causing a problem. They're actually protecting the park. A large shade tree that is, let's say this is a 30-inch shade tree, which the trees in the park are much bigger. A tree of that size, a mature tree in our park, is worth $27,000. So we have at least 15, maybe 17 trees maybe slated to be removed. That's a lot of money, so that's a lot of value. Also, the shade trees, they block 40% of rainwater from even reaching the ground to begin with. So to take down mature trees and replace them with small trees, it's not going to work. You're going to have more flooding. No matter how, Mr. Costa is very talented, but he cannot fix this problem by removing trees and putting in infrastructure. We saw it at Cherry Hill. It doesn't work. I've seen it in my own backyard. It doesn't work. My yard floods now from all of the people doing construction and putting infrastructure. It does not work. The trees are there to help. The EPA has multiple resources of people that we can get in to help us to help protect trees and use trees. The ground is deficient because we blow our leaves, we don't mulch them in. The ground is so deficient that the water just runs off. So we need to really work with DPW. So what we're asking is that we be involved in the conversation. I always get a phone call the morning of a project like the parking lot, which is huge and has been planned for years, saying we need to take this tree down. So I'm on my way to work and this is how my day starts usually. So I'd like to be involved in the conversation 2 months ago.
So open space is something that I work on a lot, and I also know I work on a lot of grants. So when I looked at the grant that was being applied for, and I know the grant I think was due May 6th, there has to be a plan when you apply for a grant. So we have 5-year plans. We have a management plan that we have to follow. And it's a state law, to be Tree City USA. It's one of our requirements. I have to give interim reports on the grant that we have right now. We do talk with REC, we work with REC. When Bobby was on REC and Cindy Sherlock was on REC, we met with them. We had plans. We talked about their 5-year plan for the park. We made sure we planted trees accordingly. It wouldn't interfere with the new playground that we're putting in for the 2 to 5-year-olds. So we worked together as a group, as a community. So I'm asking going forward, a subcommittee cannot be 2 people. It has to be REC, it has to be Shade Tree, it has to be the community, environmental. Regal, yes, I had a daughter who went through Regal. I had a son who went through Little League. I believe we do need fields. I will look, and I will be part of a discussion for alternatives. So my main thing right now is please let us be involved. Hearing it, from other people, it's hurtful. It really is hurtful because I've been volunteering for so long. So I just want to be able to
Just one more point as a resident is this is a girls' issue, and there's so many men supporting it, but we're going about it in a destructive way, and I don't think any woman would do that. I don't think we take down a park and trees and destroy things to create something for women. I think we'd come together and create something beautiful, and we're not doing that.
One second, I'm just taking a few things down. Okay, I've lost track. Where are we? 4. For the field. Is there anyone who is for the field? Okay, anyone, REC, do you have someone to call on, or should I call on someone randomly? All right, come on forward. Just so you know, we have about 15 minutes left to the hour.
I don't think I need 2 minutes.
So everybody just push your mics forward.
Yeah, that's fine.
And
what do I do?
Your hand over the current mic. There you go, but you're going to have to speak up now. You'll have to speak up.
Yes,
So
Catherine Bound, Summit Avenue, River Edge. It's not a matter of for or against. I had a son and daughter who went through the sports in town. I've been here for 42 years.
Mm-hmm.
This is a town that has defined geographical boundaries with approximately 11,000 people. We are all stakeholders.
Mm-hmm.
The public, the Board of Ed, we're supporting everyone, right, in our taxes. So I think, Councilman Busty, I'm sorry you're leaving because you were the voice of reason as far as I'm concerned. And I hope that can be further developed. So my feeling is from the beginning, but it has been said, the rec commission, the volleyball, basketball, little league, softball, all of those groups should be working together. Someone mentioned a calendar. That seems like an excellent idea. If there are 7 fields, maybe Regal doesn't know that. I don't know, because it doesn't seem like anyone is talking to each other. So that's really what I came here to say. And I hope we can, I would suggest have Regal share, have these facilities be shared, while in the ensuing year, this grant can be worked on to something that we all agree to. Okay.
Thank you. You're up.
Frank Garcia, Webb Avenue. And I was receiving some texts as we were, as the proceedings are going on.
Sure.
And I received a text from Joe Manzelli. Joe was on the Riverdale Board of Education for 13 years and served as president for 7.
Sure.
And his question is can you ask if anyone from Regal, and maybe Conchingo, we could ask Councilman Conchingo, please. Sorry if I messed up your name. Ever asked the Riverdale Board of Education about the middle school field. All those years on the board, and no one ever asked us to vote on anything. So I think, one second. I'm throwing it out there because we talked about a lot of different options. So nobody talked about Riverdale as an option. So I'm just purely getting up here and floating that out there as another option. We talked about skinning the fields and sharing the fields. We talked about pushing the Board of Education for Roosevelt. So I'm asking now, have we been talking to Riverdale Board of Education?
Okay, the council's not going to answer that question, but Beth, I would give you the ability to respond if you chose to. If not, we're going to continue with more statements from others. Because the question was specifically asked of Regal.
I want to explain to everyone that Regal is not permitted to speak to any entity on their own. Prior to the last 3 years, we have always been required to put all of our requests, wish lists, anything that we've ever wanted has to go through the Rec Commission. So I don't know if the Rec Commission has ever explored options at Riverdale Middle School because...
Okay, you've answered the question. Would someone from the Rec wish to address that question? You got to come forward. I'm so sorry. You got to say your name and address again because it has to be part of the record.
Alicia Armital, Mohawk Drive. We haven't asked Riverdale to put batting cages and a snack stand there, but that's one of the 7 fields that we use, as well as the high school, for the softball.
Okay, that answers that question. All right, yes. Well, first, is there anyone who wishes to speak in for the softball field? If not, Rec, is there anyone specifically you want to call on? If not, we'll go to a general call. Okay. Go ahead.
Cindy Sherlock, Bogart Road. For 20 years, I was on Recreation, 10 years as a vice chair, 10 years as the chairman. We did the Roosevelt Field when the schools were being under construction, both Cherry Hill and Roosevelt. The Roosevelt fields were supposed to be grass fields because that's what was there. We were instructed not to touch it, just give us what we have, and that's it, per the Board of Education. Regal came, they wanted fields. We ended up skinning both of the fields at Roosevelt for Regal. We gave them a watering system because with skin fields, and the reason there's so many problems with it is it's major maintenance on skin fields. They need to be rototilled, I'm not even saying once a week, probably 2 times a week, if not 3 times. They need to be they need to be turned over game day, lightly watered. We put a water source in there so that they could take the hose and water the fields down. There was this long enough hose that the sprinkler system that they got, or a sprinkler head, could reach the north field. I went by. Ryan Gibbons is fabulous with Regal. Hands down, they need 10 of them. because he's there every day on those fields at Roosevelt fixing them up. And that's what we told Regal about 17, 18 years ago, that you need to have the volunteers help you maintain those fields. There's only so much in a budget for recreation, for DPW to do. And that's also on the Little League fields. They have fathers that help maintain. They get a spring cleanup by the town and anything else that they do. So I just wanted to give everyone a background on that. And we do need to explore the Riverdale Middle School. That's a place where we all need to go.
Okay. Save the Park, do you have someone you specifically want to call up, or do we go to random calling now? Random. All right, then. Yes.
Colleen Hamill, Schwabik, 140 Wayne Avenue, River Edge. I have been a resident here for all my 48 years. My family's been here for 80. I am a Regal person. I have 3 boys that 2 have been already through the rec program, the Little League program, and I have coached all 3 and am currently coaching the 3rd one through. I know all the fields. They are underutilized, middle school, everything else. But I wanted to say to you guys of how I grew up. I played ball, and we all, boy or girl, Regal or Little League, we all shared the fields. It doesn't matter whether there's grass on it or not. We all shared the fields. We shared KBG. We shared middle school. We shared Memorial Park. We shared everything, and everybody has to work together. And as far as the maintenance, I agree with the person who was just talking. I am a person, I am the mom who is helping do the fields at Little League. Your Regal is going to have to, the parents are going to have to come and volunteer. I do it. I'm the only mom right now or woman coaching for Little League. They come and help. But it's how I grew up. 48 years, that's just what we did. That's just what we have to do. Everybody has to come to the table, and you all have to work together to make this plan work. And it will work if everybody speaks together and works with each other. Thank you.
Wait. Sorry. Are you for the field being in Memorial Park or not? Because it was unclear.
No, not at all.
Not,
We have, just to be clear, we have plenty of fields to share.
Just
they
wanted to
need
check.
to be all updated and maintained. Thank you.
Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Vince Sicari, 724 Elm Avenue. I think that one of the issues we have here is we're not going to teach a lesson to our young boys if we don't show them that they have to share the 2 fields that we have. And there's no better opportunity to show young boys to become men and say, you know what, yes, we'll give up one of our fields so that girls can play on the other field. Because as one of the members of the Shade Tree Commission said, you know what, you don't tear down something beautiful for equality. Because equality is doing what's right by everybody, the boys, the girls, and all of the people in this town. Mr. Chinigo, you know me, Dario, and I love the courage of your conviction. I want you to have the same courage and that conviction to go after Little League. You are our representatives. They don't run the park. You do. Please have the same courage and your conviction that we all have and that you just showed. Yes, they should get a field. On the same park, shared. That's equality. That's equity. And that's what we need to do. Let young boys be men.
Okay, we have about 5 minutes or so left. Yes? Name, address.
Hi, my name is Gabrielle Monroe, Jefferson Ave. I've been in River Edge my entire nearly 27 years, and there was a lot of really great, things brought up tonight, but I don't think the softball field being, made in the park is what we need at all. You want to know why we have drainage problems in the park? It's because it's used so much. The ground is completely compressed. So with that, you don't put in more pipes for drainage. You have to add more to it. You have to add more topsoil. You have to add gravel. You have to add shrubs that can soak in that excess water. Now, you even brought up KGB, whatever. Yeah, you brought that up earlier. Guess what? That problem's not going away. We're going to have to address where those activities are going to happen, later down the road, because it's just going to continuously get worse and worse until there's really nothing left there. I agree with what everybody said here, that both the fields absolutely need to be shared. And not to mention, I saw the plans of where they were going to place stuff at yesterday's meeting, and it's backing up nearly, 3 feet from people's yards. I know Mr. DeSanctis here, he lives right next to the park, and he has beautiful animals that are going to lose their minds if all of those people are there nonstop. And that's just not the quality of life you really want for all of those people there. You want to be able to have a house next to the park. You don't want people running away from it because it's overcrowded. That's really all I have to say, is that it's not okay.
Anyone else? Okay.
I'm sorry. Hi. I'm Suzanne Golden, Bogart Road. I just have a couple of questions, and they may be silly questions, but you mentioned before about the Board of Education and how they own those fields. Aren't we the taxpayers? Don't we?
Sorry.
That's okay. No, you can't answer me. But that's one of my questions is, we are the taxpayers. I don't know, obviously, how that works out, but really, shame on the Board of Education at this point. We are trying to get things done as a community. Whoever owns them, it shouldn't really make a difference. Doing right by everybody includes the Board of Education, and showing our kids that we can all work together, which, this gentleman said before. For all, for the boys, for the girls, for anybody that wants to play any sport. We didn't even talk about lacrosse or anything else. We have plenty of fields. I'm hoping that we can put something together and work this out and get the Board of Education on board, because it's really shameful what I kind of heard tonight. So but that is my question about how we only have limited use of the Board of Ed fields. Thank you.
Okay, we just have a few minutes left. We can either end now or we can hear a few more people.
Sebastian Muscarella, Fifth Avenue. Just a comment and 2 quick questions I know you cannot answer. First comment is, I know a lot of the friction that you've been dealing with is with regards to the Board of Ed and communicating with them and just lack of interaction. I would encourage this community to think hard about the Board of Ed elections come November. Because had we done that last November, we wouldn't even be here right now. Okay? My 2 questions are, with regards to KBG, I know we've talked about theoretically that there's going to be flooding in the future. Obviously, it's happened a lot in the recent past, but can we get a meteorologist or an environmental person, an expert, to actually confirm that before we just say it? And question 2 is, I understand, though I don't know this to be truth, that a lot of the complications with using Roosevelt for the softball field is due to a snack stand. Can we make a concession there? Can Regal make a concession there to say, okay, we're good, we don't need the snack stand, maybe a food truck can come, maybe something else? There has to be an alternative to allow that to be the option. That's it.
Give them the money.
Thank you.
So we have about 2 minutes left. Does anybody want to speak? If not, we'll close, and then the council will resume debate, which I'm sure you're going to want to stay for. Is there any objection to closing amongst the residents? We only have about 2 minutes more that we allocated. I'm going to allow this woman to speak. And this will be our last speaker.
My name is Claire Sook.
Address?
209 Webb Avenue. Before I moved this town,
Yes.
I was pregnant.
Mhm.
And I looked for only this town for 1 year. Because it's a beautiful town, and I had a dream that I want to raise my children in this beautiful town. And now my young little one is 19 months. And I'm the woman, my daughter's gonna use whatever the facility in this town. And that's the reason why I am here, and I built up my family in this town. And as many of you guys know, council member, including council member and mayor, I post in the Facebook. Only one reason. To me, if I have a major surgery, then my doctor is gonna inform me, you have this problem, I'm trying to do this in your body. Would you agree? To me, Memorial Park is belong to everybody in this town. Putting in something in the Central Park, to me, sounds like a major surgery. So, without getting any informed consent from the resident, the town trying to do the big surgery, I was shocked. So, only thing what I did is, I want residents to know what town trying to do, because I just got the information from my neighbor. And what about the other people? Do they know? That's all I wanted to do, because we need to know what's going on in our town. And I think that to be fair, going forward, what council presented, going forward, whatever trying to do in our town, we need to know. And we have to hear and look at today, how many people came to here in this meeting to hear
Time.
Voice.
Thank you for coming. Could I have a motion to close to comments from the public on the items on the agenda?
So moved.
Could I have a second? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Council, and public, would it be in order for us to take a 3 to 5 minute break just to use the restrooms for those who might need to use them and then resume? Or would you like to proceed directly into debate? And the council? All right. So I would like just to frame what we would do. We would need a motion, and then we would need a second, and then it would be open for debate. As I see it, there are actually 4 concepts that have been brought up, 3 by the council and 1 by the public. Concept number 1 is the $3.4 million plan. Concept 2 is the $1.6 million plan. Concept 3 is the $0.8 million plan, using the money at KBG. Did I get it right that time? All right. And leave the current grant request for Brookside. But I heard a 4th proposal presented tonight, and that would be for us to immediately order that one of the Little League fields starting next year would become a girls' softball field. And then, which is what I think I've heard repeatedly. Did I hear it correctly? Yes. Now, there were a couple of questions. We are following the past reports going back generations. Subcommittees don't normally create reports, but we can look for them, but I don't believe there are any. There was a question about Bergen County Open Space. We are following their rules. As I outlined, there is a preliminary meeting on July 19th. There is their formal meeting, which would happen somewhere October, November, December. And so there was a question is, we don't have a plan, we have an idea. Well, it was actually more of a statement, but that's all we're really doing. It's a concept, not a plan. A full-blown plan is something that you do after the grant has been awarded, and then you spend the money with the professionals to create architectural plans after you have all of the constituents and people who would be interested or affected, then DPW, Police Department, Fire Department. There was a question about the flooding. We do have experts. Mr. Costa is an expert. Mr. Jason, what's Jason's last name? What?
Flores.
No, not Jason Flores. DPW Melito. Mr. Melito is an expert, so we do have that. The BOE fields was asked. We have no authority of the BOE fields according to state law. They are under the authority of the BOE, and we use them only with their permission. Was there anything else that was asked that we needed to clarify? The middle school and high school, there was, I believe, there was an approach to the middle school and high school, but those fields are heavily used by the high school sports system, is the answer I received. But, and so that they are open to us using them when they're not using them, which my understanding, can be wrong, is that there's not a lot of playtime, but I could be wrong on that.
In the spring.
In the spring.
In the spring, there's not a lot of playtime over there. The fields are being used by the middle school and the high school at the times that we or the girls in town would need them used. So that's the practical reality. You're right. The fields right now, you can go right there right now. There's nobody playing on them. It's dark, right? But there's nobody playing on them. You're right.
Okay.
They're underutilized.
So I think we've answered all the questions and clarified all the things. Now the council needs to enter into debate. I don't normally get involved in debate because I try to remain a neutral player. But after hearing everything I've heard, if it comes to a tiebreaker, I would vote for us to immediately declare one of the, well, first of all, do we have the authority to declare one, to rededicate one of the Little League fields for softball?
It's your fields. I don't see why you can't.
So if it was up to me,
sole use of one field for one organization.
That's what I think would be the only equitable solution. And hearing from the public, I think the girls need a field. I think they need a field now. I would say don't put the new field. No more questions.
I'm just trying to save you guys a lot of heartache.
I know. Go ahead, Ken.
So, if you consider proposal 4, which
I think we need him to come up.
Ken, you got to come up and speak. Ken often comes before us. We know that he has the pulse on this, so I'm going to allow him to speak. Could I have a motion and second to let Ken speak?
Sure. Okay, so
all in favor?
Aye.
Ken, you need to say your name again.
Ken Scheffenhauer, Millbrook Road. So my only qualm is, and I was one of the ones that mentioned the Northfield proposal. I think if you put that towards a vote today and you vote on it, it's no better than what took place leading into this meeting, where you're going to have a whole different bunch of people coming in, and you'll find yourself with another 4-hour meeting on August the 3rd or whatever. So I would just not vote any. My suggestion would be, and I don't know what
Maybe
the
that
whole
would be
procedure
better.
is.
But the problem is not voting on it is the same thing as leaving the girls in limbo for year 18. Well, there would be.
Little League, you need to get on the same page.
All right.
I understand the county money, wanting to get the county money. Just because the money's there, you don't grab the money and make a poor decision.
All right, Ken, I think you have a good point. So I'm going to withdraw. I'm going to instead say that perhaps we need to bring Little League in and discuss. But if we're going to do that, then we're postponing and leaving it as much unsure as the Roosevelt. So I guess If it's left up to me at this point, I'm going to stop talking. All right, Councilwoman Bastide.
As much as I like Proposal 3, and I think that we have funds available from the KBG project to do the playground renovations at Memorial Park, I would be willing to modify Proposal 3 to leave the 2020 grant alone for Brookside Park and request that we direct the Recreation Commission to organize a stakeholder meeting within the next 30 days to bring all the stakeholders together who use all of the fields in this town to start having a dialogue so that when we go forward with the 2023 grant, it can include the appropriate monies and a reallocation of monies for KBG to do it the right way.
We have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second? If we have a second, we then open to debate amongst the council.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. According to Robert's rules, we are now open to debate. Councilwoman Bastide, would you restate your motion so that there would be clarity amongst the members of council?
So the motion is that the 2022 grant that we submitted in the spring for the Brookside Park renovations remain as is. We do not request the county to reevaluate the proposal in any way. That we leave the money that's earmarked from 19 and 20 open space grants for KBG alone, and that we direct the Recreation Commission within 30 days to bring a stakeholder meeting together of all people who use the fields, including any community stakeholders, to start for a plan for how we will utilize the fields more fairly and equitably among all residents.
It has been moved and seconded. It's open for debate. Is there debate? Now, just so you guys understand, under Robert's rules, we don't need to have debate. If no one debates it, then we go to a vote, and it either passes or doesn't, and then there would be room for another motion, and then that would be second, and that would be open for debate.
So just so I understand it, so this motion is to proceed with the third plan except with that one slight revision?
No, there will be no third proposal.
No, you guys, you had your time.
The
It's
third,
okay.
the Proposal 3 is withdrawn, and what we're doing is actually taking no action on the 2022 open space grant. The proposal's already with the county to proceed with the Brookside renovations, which the Recreation Commission brought forward, and that's the project that they felt was necessary. We don't touch any of the pre-allocated money from open space, but what we're doing is directing the Recreation Commission to hold the stakeholder meeting within 30 days so we can actually start having conversations about how to utilize the fields at our disposal.
Yes. Is there debate or comment? I'll ask a final time. Is there debate or comment? Hearing none, we call the question. Roll call.
Councilwoman Bastide?
Yes.
Councilman Kanigo?
Yes.
Council President Kaufman?
Yes.
Councilwoman Kinsella?
Yes.
Councilwoman Malolari?
Yes.
Councilwoman Montesano Cohen?
Yes.
Okay, then they pass. Now, before anybody leaves, there was a lot of promises to reach out to the Board of Education made here. I hope that these promises are true. The Board of Education is filled with good people. I'm not saying they're not. But as you influenced us, we're hoping you can influence them. They're good people. They're good people. What I'm hoping for is that we have a plan for a girls' softball field somewhere in the town this time next year without exception. And what I'm hoping for is that everyone here is going to make that possible. We're going to now do a bunch of business which will probably be very boring to you, but stay if you want.
Mayor, when is that next Board of Ed meeting? 7:27.
Is that what it is?
7:27 Cherry Hill, 7:30. Board of Ed, 7:27 Cherry Hill, 7:30.
Oh my God, loves you.
actually have a great feeling. We never had it.
Could I have a motion to suspend for 2 minutes? Could I have a second? It's been moved in second. All in favor, please say aye. All right. We're suspended for 2 minutes. Okay, we'll just have, could I have a motion to resume? Could I have a motion to resume?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Do we need a roll call? Mr. Sarla? Roll call.
Councilwoman Bastide?
Yes.
Councilman Kanigo?
Yes.
Council President Kaufman?
Yes.
Councilwoman Kinsella?
Yes.
Councilwoman Malalari?
Yes.
Councilwoman Montesano Cohen?
Yes.
Mayor Papaleo?
Here, present, yes. Okay. All right, so we have item number 8, appointment of personnel and appointments and personnel changes. Approve the resignation of Ozad Freeman, senior bus driver, effective July 8th, 2022. Can I have since this would require a motion and a second, right?
Yes.
Mayor, I have a question about that.
And a roll call. Yes?
No, not a roll call.
Not a roll call. Yes?
Maybe to Lisette, because I remember there was another resignation. Does this render the senior bus operational still or not?
Yes, the principal driver, the main driver is still on staff.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
Okay, have we, Michelle, did you lower this? No,
me to?
I just want,
I did not.
can everybody hear us clearly? Good, okay. So could I have a motion and second, and we do not need a roll call, so we'll ask for, so could I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstention? Okay. Next, we have some monthly reports that are on record for the public to inspect if they wish. Historic Commission, May and June 2022. Fire, Tax Collector, June 2022. Fire Department, January, June 2022. Health Department, June 2022. First reading of ordinance item number 10. Okay, a motion that has, a motion that follows, motion that the following, that's, okay, I'm going to say it the way it's written, but I don't know if this is correct. Motion that the following ordinances be, introduced and passed on the first reading and setting August 1st, 2022 at 6 p.m. or as soon thereafter as the matter can be heard as the date and time and the council chambers of the River Edge Municipal Building as the place for the hearing on said ordinances. Ordinance 22-1, an ordinance amending and supplementing the revised general ordinance of the Board of of the Borough of River Edge, Chapter 400, vehicles and traffic. We need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, could our BA please give for the public's benefit an abstract?
This ordinance implements the recommendations from the police department for the changes on Continental Avenue since the project has been completed. It's just still minor punch list items, and it has to deal with parking at the ambulance building, prohibited parking, and the crosswalk location.
Okay, this is open for debate. Is there debate? Seeing none, this can be just a acclamation, right? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstain? Hearing none, we move to resolutions. We need to pull out 22-218, correct?
Yes.
All right, so we're going to move 22-219 through 22-225. Could I have a motion and second for 22-219 through 22-225?
So moved.
Second.
Are there any questions or debate? Hearing none, this can be by acclamation?
Yes.
Could I have all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstention? All right. We're going to go to 22-226 and then back to 22-218. Could I have the chair of the Finance Committee please read 22-226?
Sure, 1 second. Excuse me.
Thank you. Payment of bills at a regular meeting of the Mayor and Council of the Borough of River Edge, County of Bergen, State of New Jersey, held on July 11th, 2022. Be it resolved that the Mayor and Council of the Borough of River Edge approve the following expenditures. Current fund, $706,725.83. Capital fund, $446,859.70. Grant fund, $1,819.25. Animal control fund, $27.60. Trust other fund, $8,190. Self-insurance trust fund, $859.50. Recreation trust fund, $9,123.65. So moved.
Do I have a second? Second. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstention? Okay, we need to go back to 22-218. Ms. Apertola.
This resolution is to authorize the referendum question for the November general election, and there is a line that references the Memorial Park project, but I cannot unilaterally make any changes to a resolution. This has to be authorized by the governing body and voted on, and once it is voted on, Ms. Dodd would forward this over to the county to meet their deadline for the printing of the sample and vote by mail ballots.
So the question is, should we revise or delete the last sentence, correct?
Correct.
So would every member of council please look at the last sentence on Resolution 22-218 in your packet. It comes after the ordinance and, of course, after the map. So after the maps, then you would come in your packet to Ordinance 22-11, and then the very next page is...
It's just an example of the allocation?
Yes.
Yeah, so we would either delete or revise. Is there discussion or a question in that?
I mean, we could just switch it to Brookside.
We could, or we could just delete it.
Cut it out, yeah.
I personally think we should probably just delete it, but it's up to you guys, not me.
But this is an example. Why do we need to remove it? It's just an example of the allocation.
Because it directly refers to what we didn't move forward with.
Okay, so then I think we just delete it.
Yeah,
I think we just delete it, but that's what I was thinking. All right, could I have a motion to move 22-218 with deleting the last sentence of the resolution? Could I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, any abstention? No. And we have one no. Okay. Let me turn off my speaker. Okay. All right, so now we move to new business. Do we have something under old business? Okay, so do we have anything under new business or old business? We can move it as a group. Seeing none, could I have a motion and second to open for any public comments? They would be granted 2 minutes per speaker. Could I have a motion and a second?
So moved. Second.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstention? Okay, anyone who would like to speak may come forward, give their name and address on anything, not just what's on the agenda. All right.
I'll state my name and
Please,
everything for
Beth,
the record
thank
again.
you.
Beth Koenigo, 445 Windsor Road. I just wanted to sit here and say that I think that it's really easy for people to say, let's do something next time.
Yeah.
You know, it's really politically expedient for all of you to say that, to not have the people here with pitchforks wanting to come after you in your seats. So they're obviously going to go do that to BOE. So you guys just effectively punted this to the BOE, which leaves my organization in the same exact spot that it was before this meeting. And so I just wanted to say, I guess, thanks for leaving me and leaving my organization that has fought for this for 40 years with absolutely nothing. Thank you.
All right. Anyone else like to?
I have one more thing that I'd
Sure.
like to say. I just want to confirm that these funds that are being moved.
We're not moving funds.
Moving any funds.
Okay, so the Little League is still going to get a batting cage there, or that was part of the fund, that was part of this to
Council
move them
put that
there?
into the capital program in February and March. The council then as a whole approved it unanimously. So that is not open space fund, that's capital
Right, I
fund.
understand that, Mayor, but we're going to make another improvement to the fields that the boys are using, and the girls are getting no improvements whatsoever. For at least another year, we're going to have 30 days of discussions with the same people that for 40 years have told us they don't want us using the field that we're about to ask for. So I don't think it's going to be very productive, having been part of these discussions before, having asked for this exact same thing. But we can all hope and dream, and hopefully that this time will be the time that makes the difference. But again, I really don't have much faith, and I'm really disappointed that all of you decided to forego a field which all of you, I've spoken to all of you, and you guys have told me that this was a priority for you. I don't think it's a priority for you. I think it's a priority when you talk to me, but then when you turn around and you talk to other people, it's not a priority for you. So I would urge that you really consider that the girls in this town are getting a short shrift. We are not being considered as equals. Okay, we have many people on the Recreation Commission that have told us that they will never go for any proposal that involves doing anything at Memorial.
It's time, but I'm going to let you keep going if you want. And then, of course, if the council wishes to make council comments, they can later, but they're not going to enter into debate with
That's
you.
totally fine. I guess that, I've been doing this a long time. I'm very upset tonight, the way that this went down, that when you're sitting here and you're talking about equality, that people will say, oh, yes, we believe in equality, but they actually don't want to make any moves to get you to that point. They want to talk about what other people can do to get you to that point, but no one's really willing to make the move themselves. So I really hope, I've told my board, and I'm telling you all no tonight, I resigned as Regal president as of September 30th. So you're not going to have me helping this process along anymore. I've done a lot of work on this. It's felt very underappreciated, and I'm done. So this is now the rest of my board's problem, and I hope that they feel as passionate about getting equality for those girls in town that I always have. So thank you.
All right, Beth. Thank you.
I have to clarify something about the batting cages.
Sure, go ahead.
Although that was part of the capital budget, that is the repurposed grant from the outdoor fitness equipment. Was repurposed for the hockey board dashers and the batting cages, and the county.
So that wasn't in capital,
That was in capital, but
but it wasn't
we went
funded.
partially funded. We reallocated the grant award for the outdoor exercise equipment and went through the repurposing process, and that is being voted on by the Board of Commissioners from what I was told at the August meeting. So that is part of the open space application.
So I stand corrected, and I appreciate that. Anybody else? Okay.
You offer frequent flyer miles?
I do, Ken, but we are going to keep it to 2 minutes because that's what we gave Beth as the president of Regal additional time, but we will not be granting that.
Okay, so my reason for sticking around, and I'll give a quick comment on Beth, but just with the vegetation schedules, totally switching gears. But it seems like it's a weekly call when the contractor doesn't come pick up. The town readjusted the schedule. I don't know, maybe they're gonna do a block each, one block a day or whatever at the rate they get to the recycling. Is there any person, is that a DPW issue? Is that a town issue?
We're normally with comments we don't, but we're gonna, Lizette, can you speak to where we are with the, or would we have to have Mr. Melito speak to that?
Well, whenever there's a garbage pickup that is missed or vegetation pickup that is missed, residents call the DPW. The DPW has a point person with the garbage company, and seeing as the garbage company had a labor shortage and issues with their vehicles, Mr. Melito came up with the idea to work with the garbage company to do vegetation, split the town in half to do that, and it was under the caveat that nothing was to be missed. But other than that, we're still, I believe, in the 30 of a 5-year contract.
All right, okay, yeah, so, and on the calendar, the recycling schedule, that you have the contractor's name. I call over there, but it's still not being whatever's been promised and the services we're paying for, they're still not meeting that obligation.
So would you please have Mr. Melito look into what Ken's saying about services not being met, and maybe we can have an answer from Jason of what he thinks, because the council may or may not need to take action. All right, Ken?
And just if, since some of my time was spent talking up there, as far as Beth, I just feel very bad. Hopefully, it's not just incumbent upon you, but everybody who was here was clapping and everything in support. Following through is what's going to need to take place and everything. I do think it was the right decision to table it and not vote on it, because then another group is just getting blindsided. So I think it was just the right way to proceed. So,
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, you're right, Ken. Thank you. Anyone else?
Good evening. Joe Armital, 200 Mohawk Drive. I just want to say thank you to the council for the courage and echoing what Ken had just said about tabling this. This is obviously a very emotional conversation that, as someone that has 3 daughters that are all part of softball, I coach 5 teams in the spring. I think that the conversations need to be had and that all sides are heard. And I think you guys did the right decision tonight, and I appreciate that for having the courage to do that. I do also want to echo what other people had said earlier in really get an understanding of that equity of what exists, what doesn't exist. We have 7 softball teams that compete. There are 7 fields that the girls use that have access at any given time. I was just on the middle school field yesterday with my 3rd grade team. We were practicing. There was no issues there, and that's not including Memorial. So, I think we really need to look at this holistically and really take our time to do it right, because it is a big project. I wouldn't equate it to surgery, but it is something that needs to be done. If we're going to do it, let's do it right so that it doesn't become another issue. Yes, things evolve, but we do need to look at equity from the other sports as well, lacrosse, soccer, along those lines. So thank you again for your courage for making that decision to table.
Thank you. Before you leave, because you just brought it up. The middle schools, they're not in session now, right?
They're not what?
In session.
No, no, they haven't been. We've had free reign at that since middle of April, middle of May, somewhere around there, and it's wide open.
April or May. I mean,
yeah. At that point,
it's close to the end of school, right? That's
right. Yeah, once the middle school team is done, and then once the high school team is done, we have free reign to that field as well.
But the sports end at that point, right? Once the high school team is done, yes.
And that's when
pockets. Let me finish. There's still active travel pockets.
Right.
But the main thing, like what we all went to Regal opening day with 200 girls running around. Those 200 girls are not currently playing right now, right? Or are all 200 girls still playing?
They're not all still playing, but a good majority
so those
of them
200
are.
girls are not still playing, and the schools are out of session. I just want to make sure that these points are like.
But we have access to those fields during school as well.
I understand.
Right, and our seasons don't really kick off until later on.
There's going to be there are people who have different opinions than you who have run the sport for a couple of decades already. So maybe things have changed over the past year, and I will not argue with that if they have. Maybe you have full access to the middle school fields.
Yeah, there's been nothing that any of my girls in 3 different levels of rec or travel that they have not desired for. We have dugouts, we have pop-up tents that we bring to games, and we bring them to away games because their facilities are there.
So the boys don't have to do all those things. They don't have to bring their own dugouts and pop-up tents. They don't have to bring their own sodas, and they don't have to bring their own snacks. They don't have to bring their own scoreboards and flip the scores for the scoreboards.
We don't have
because
scoreboards.
There's a big. That's right.
Wait, we don't have
scoreboards.
And no one argues. No one argues about that. No one sees any issue with it.
The main argument is the facilities, right? Like, it's the facilities.
Yeah, there should be.
That's what I've been talking about.
There should be
So if
facility
you're going to come to me and tell me that
Mm-hmm.
it's equal, I'm going to just say no, it's not.
No, well, facilities, but that's also, again, taken in totality, you have to look at the effort that was put in by the Little League dads and moms.
And Regal has put in the same effort over the
Gary,
past
I'm going to
20 years.
argue that. Hell no.
You know what? I will bring up
I know that I've dragged. I was the one that
This should
carried.
not be a debate.
This
shall not be a
dragged
debate.
it myself. So
And your 2
I understand.
minutes.
So did I for years. I did it for about 8 years. How
No
long
one has
did you go
touched
for?
it. For 4 or 5 years. So
Okay.
All right.
So we're
So-
I got another 6 years to go through. So it's there.
if we
We've
could-
dragged it, and and things have improved because there are now people that are willing. That field was neglected for years because there was a lack of input from the parents and a lack of
Are you
involvement
2
from the parents.
minutes are up? I
problem.
appreciate
Thank you.
it. Thank you very, very much. Okay. Any other person would like 2 minutes? All right, could I have a motion to close to the public?
Joe.
Former
Oh,
councilperson Joe.
I didn't see Joe stand up. I apologize. Joe, you got to say your name and address. You don't have to say your house number.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor. Joe Gordier, 151 Concord Drive. So, I have been involved, as most of you, if not all of you know, in numerous sports within this community. I have coached travel soccer, rec soccer, junior wrestling, lacrosse, right? Little League at one point. I signed up to coach for Regal, but then COVID shut everything down and we never got a season that year. So, my kids play. I have a boy and a girl, and they play in multiple sports. And I spend half my life at DPAC. We, over in Oradell, right? We do need more field space in this town. Listen, I would love to mound KBG and turf it and call it a day, but the DEP has a little bit of a problem with that, right? So, I haven't really reviewed all the phases of this plan, but I can say this. I do not feel that the girls in this town should be treated as second-class citizens. Okay? There has to be a little more equality here. All right? We have to make some kind of progress. All right? It's not fair that my son should get things that my daughter does not. It's just how I feel. Now, a lot of things were thrown out tonight about different ideas about different fields. And I hope the community realizes that the mayor and council only has control over River Edge fields. When we talk about travel and rec soccer, my kids have played on Oradell fields, they've played on Riverdell fields, they've played on River Edge school fields.
Joe, that's 2 minutes, but you're a former councilman, and I gave everybody else extra time, so we're going to give you extra time. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome. Well, because we just need to be consistent for this meeting.
Sure. Do you know how many times they've played soccer games on a River Edge field? In my years of coaching and watching my son play, one game on a Friday night in the spring. Out of all those years. I think, could our fields be utilized more? Well, it's kind of hard to utilize KBG when it's underwater, right? And I'm not saying that I've had a chance to review this plan in detail and think it's the best plan possible, but I know we have to do something, okay? And is adding another field the answer? Well, it very may well be, right? Very may well be. When I was on the council, we had the idea of maybe possibly expanding KBG, and I guess that's not really possible with, it's not feasible with environmental conditions. And, it's great to say, I wish this could happen, but it's not realistic, right? Mm-hmm. Just my 2 cents for what it's worth.
Thanks, Jim.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate it. Any other member wish to make a comment or say anything? Okay, could I have a motion to close to the public?
So moved. Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions? Okay, well, this has been kind of exhausting, but I still think that even though it's late, I do know that some members of council, I believe some members of council might wish to offer some comments. You don't have to. I'm just going to call on you from seniority. Ellen, you would go first. Do you have any comments? All right. Dario, you would go second.
I feel terrible about what happened tonight, and I think we did a terrible job on this, but the responsibility lies with me. I did not involve enough people beforehand. We all know, sitting here on the council, although some of us pretend that it's not so, that What happened back in June was just the first step of many steps. It would have taken years. Instead, this project got killed. I don't believe anything is going to happen in the future, although I'll sit with bated breath waiting for it to happen. And I feel like I've failed the little girls, not Regal, because frankly I couldn't care less about Regal, but I think the little girls in River Edge, I think this entire council failed them tonight. So that's the extent of my comments, and it's all my fault, so on me.
Michelle?
No comment.
Okay, Lisa?
I just hope that the community, the way they rally and came here, really continue working together and holding the Board of Ed accountable. That's the only way we're going to get this done if there is no plan on the table.
Indira?
I would say that I am disappointed that we did not get a field for the girls. And as Lisa said, I do hope this community who is here today drives the Board of Ed to actually do something.
No comment.
Okay. I just want to thank everybody for their efforts, regardless of what side you were on. It is my position that we're going to do something next year. And whether that something has to be allocating one of the fields for Little League or getting something from the Board of Education, but we have to do something. It has to happen next year. Can't be put off anymore. I would like for the council to approve for us to put on old business softball field so that every month we are reminded of it and it's on the agenda and it's not something we can forget. So could I have a motion to add to the agenda under old business softball field?
So moved.
Second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Could I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you all.
Viva Napo.